What is up, freak bitches, wherever you may be, however you may be listening? Thank you for giving us just a little bit of your time. I am Frank. I'm the host of The Hard Truth. What's going on, everybody? We're here to talk about some really cool movies today. We're going to talk about some really cool movies that were made pre-1980. So the release date had to have been 1979 or earlier. Now, I thought about maybe trying to break these down by decade, but the reality is that would take forever to go back through 100 years of Hollywood history. And there's probably only I probably could have found some decades where there was actually a ton of really good movies. But to be honest, who really goes back that far in movies anymore anyway, with the exception of old farts like me? So Cora had the great idea of just doing everything pre-1980. So, That's what we're going to do, pre-1980s. And here to do all this stuff with me, as always, is the Dowager Countess herself, Lady Cora. How are you tonight, ma'am?
I'm great. I got my second COVID shot today, and I have no symptoms, but my husband's feeling like shit. So, it's a mixed bag. But we're having a good day otherwise.
So he's tougher than you, or you're tougher than he is what you're saying.
Yeah. I have headphones on. He can't hear you.
We won't tell. As long as he doesn't watch the show.
It was a great day for a drive, though, because the weather's getting better. And it just was like one of those days where, you know, when you have to go somewhere, but the road is such a beautiful experience. It's like, it was worth it because it's just so fucking pretty out. So it was a great day. Yeah.
It was great earlier here today, but then it got rainy and crappy.
Nice.
And the one guy who would know that is the guy who actually lives somewhat close to me, and that is my hetero life mate, Jeremy Warner. What's going on with you, buddy?
Yeah, it was great until the weather had to have its own little mood swing. But, you know, that's the downsides of living here, I suppose, but we deal with it.
Yeah. Could be worse. I mean, trust me, the 80-degree weather is right around the corner, so, you know. And I don't know why it is still on that one.
And the cicadas are right around the corner, too.
Yeah, we get those big, giant,
we have those here, too, Jeremy. They were actually in our backyard the other night. There was this big-ass bug that kept trying to get to the light bulb. And it kept bouncing off my head when I was standing in the door. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Dan goes, that's a cicada. I'm like,
they're here.
I don't like them.
But we're here to talk about some movies. And the movies we're here to talk about, like I said, are all pre-1970s. So we've all picked 5 each that we think you guys are going to kick out of hearing.
Actually, I have 6. I could not narrow it down.
Okay, so that'll be her what is it, honorable mention. So we already know that she has one honorable mention. I actually put all 6 of them in here just in case. I didn't know which one, if you wanted to go with just one of the extra ones or what, but they're all in here. So Cora will have 6. But that's one's prerogative after all, isn't it?
It is. It's my birthday week, so I'm gonna do it.
and we're gonna start with the Dowager Countess herself. And Miss Cora, what is the movie that you'd like to start with first?
All About Eve from 1950. It was based on a 1944 short story and turned into a movie, and since has gone into play form, radio plays, a sequential remake. Betty Davis is the star, and she literally plays a Hollywood star, which is kind of ironic because she is a Hollywood star herself, but she portrays a character called Margot Channing. And she's kind of at the end of her career, sort of, you know, and you know, but she's still very, you know, prominent in Broadway. And a young nobody shows up and just, you know, dotes on her. And so she gives this gal a chance and lets her be her assistant. And that girl's name is Eve Harrington, played by Ann Baxter. And she's an ambitious young fan, basically, who, you know, just sneaks her way in to get close to, you know, the star's life. And Margot's character has a longtime boyfriend, but they're not married, and best friends. And one of her best friends is her manager. And it's all about how this young woman kind of worms her way into this life and ends up becoming the star and pushing her aside. And it's very dramatic. It's kind of dark and maniacal in some cases, but it's really a great cinematic experience of seeing how people change and how people can deceive you. Kind of like, to me, it's an older version of a similar movie. Did you ever see the movie The Talented Mr. Ripley?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that, where someone's pretending to be, they fuck up a bunch of people's lives, and so it's kind of like a psychological fuck up, but it's tantalizing. And this movie received a record 14 Academy Award nominations, won 6, including Best Picture, is the only film in Oscar history to receive 4 female acting nominations. And it's one of the greatest movies of all time, not just by my opinion. And it's there was actually an English rock band that named themselves after the movie. It has a stunning acting and screenplay, and it really was my first love of a dramatic movie as a child. And there's so many innuendos and so many subtleties that add to the depth of the plot and character development. It's just fantastic to me. So there you go.
I just realized I was in studio mode, so I just now put the picture of the the thing up. So for the first few minutes, that's just the blue screen. But yeah, you guys can see it up there now. Honestly, I'm going to go to the thumbnail real quick, because seriously, who does better bitch face than Bette Davis? That's, for those of you watching right now, Bette Davis is on the left. When she was happy, she looked like she was ready to tear somebody's face off. Mm-hmm. But I mean, but honestly, she was like one of the most beautiful women of the era. I mean, and on top of that, I mean, like most of her characters, she was absolutely tenacious.
Mm-hmm. And the character, I think, was almost written for her. It was fantastic, and I've seen this movie probably about 50 times, so it's right up there for me.
I'm assuming that because of the nature of this video, that there's going to be a lot of movies that only one of us has seen. Well, I don't know, me and Jeremy, because we have such similar tastes, and because I'm so much older than he is, he's going to go back to the movies that are old to him, but really the movies I grew up on. But yeah, so I think it's kind of a dumb question to ask, have you seen this movie? Because honestly, I haven't seen All About Eve. I knew of the movie, but I just never seen it. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, everybody's familiar with any movie that Bette Davis has been in.
Right.
So, I mean, they're all kind of just out there, so... But anyway, any thoughts on this at all, Jeremy? I'm assuming you haven't seen this movie. I mean, it came out, what, 53?
53, yeah.
But again, remember, plot twists. For someone like me who absolutely shatters that perception, it doesn't mean I haven't seen it. You know, it's not like... Because people seem to think that, I have only seen, or I'm apparently only allowed to see anything that I've ever been alive for, which is dumb. Seriously, it almost feels like anything that I've been alive for is the only things I know about. And I'm like, no, are you fucking kidding? No, it's boring. Fuck that.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I'm the same way, because my mother was a fan of old movies, and so I grew up watching AMC before it was a TV show channel, and all they did was radio broadcast. And so, I mean, I used to watch this kind of content, 10, 12 hours a week. It'd be on in the background. And that's where I grew to love. I mean, I listened to all the Roy Rogers and radio programs, stuff that people listened to before my mom was even born. So I'm right there with you, Jeremy. I don't like the perception that just because you're of a certain age, you don't have an experience of art content like this well before your time.
Well, I didn't really get into going back to looking at older things until I was in like my late 20s. Because like musically in particular, this is the one. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry. This is because like musically in particular, I listened to Heart and Chicago because they were big bands of the '80s, but I didn't catch on to their '70s stuff until I had gotten into my late 20s, and I was like, oh yeah, there's this whole other thing, this whole other side of these people I didn't know about from kind of a different era of music. So when I went back to listen to that stuff, I was like, holy shit, this stuff's really good. It's like in the 80s stuff I like, but this stuff is even better. It's like the Terry Kath Chicago is by far the best Chicago ever. But the 80s Chicago I like with Peter Cetera, but when Terry Kath, before he passed away, that era of Chicago was fantastic. And then of course, like Heart, like Barracuda and Dreamboat Annie and things like that. But yeah, so I was kind of not on in years, but I was kind of getting older when I decided to go back and find this older stuff. So it wasn't until I reached about 30 that I started to go back and really watch some of the stuff from. Yeah, damn right. Only assholes drive by and shout their shit on your chat. Just right now, we're also being broadcast over on Derailed, so he knows where all the talent's at. But. But yes, so I mean, it wasn't until I hit my 30s. I had this period where I went back and watched a lot of like Howard Hughes directed stuff, like and one that I'll bring up later on is Hell's Angels and stuff like that, and the Conqueror with John Wayne and things like that. So I went back and watched some of the movies from that era. So yeah, I was kind of hitting my not early middle age, my later younger years before I decided to go back and start looking at some stuff.
So watch yourself. I'm that age. Watch what you say next. How do you describe that phase of your life? Yeah, it's not really fair because I was raised by my grandparents, so it's like, well, that's why I have this. Yeah, because my mom had been seeing movies like her whole life since she was my age, probably before that. And we watched a lot of like Turner Classic movies and shit like that. So that's how I got into it too. That's what I grew up doing. But that movie sounds kind of almost like a slightly less darker version of Selena.
Well, it's funny
Somebody
because
wormed her way into her life, but just didn't kill her.
When I was doing research, it said that there have been many movies and TV shows that kind of have this plot, a similar plot. And I think it's just, one of those things about human interaction, it's just, I don't know. Love the movie. I could talk about all 6 of these movies for an hour each. So, but basically, I love this movie. First love of a dramatic movie. And the cool thing is, maybe you guys have experienced this, especially you, Jeremy. I saw this movie when I was a kid, and every time I've seen it as I've grown up, I understand more and more about it because I can relate to it more because I'm older and I've experienced something similar. Or I see things that as a kid meant nothing, but I'm like, oh,
you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It hits like
there's a scene where she's trying on Margot's fur coat when Margot's not looking, and as a kid, I think, oh, she's playing dress up. But actually, she's trying to imagine what it's like to be her and seeing how it feels and, almost egging herself on to push herself to keep, taking on. Mm-hmm.
Trying to live vicariously through her a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. So anyways, there's my first pick.
Well, let's move on to Jeremy's first pick. Jeremy's had a couple of good ones on his list.
It almost just feels like mine are just like, I could say any of these and everyone's just going to know. But I guess a good one to start off with, since summer is right around the corner. First one I want to talk about is Jaws from 1975.
Oh, nice.
I mean, do I have to explain myself? Probably, if not the first, or at least the one's considered to be like the first like summer blockbuster type movie.
You might be right about that.
Yeah, this movie did come out right around the time that blockbuster was it became kind of the norm. Like that summer movie season became kind of where you would drop all these big money movies.
Mm-hmm. And that's the funny thing. It's just like, I think Spielberg was younger than me when he made this movie. He's like 24, 25 years old. I'm just like, and he always described himself. He's like, I was just young and dumb, and I just did this. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, you made, like I said, probably the first big summer blockbuster movie, or that started that trend. And yeah, we know the fucking shark. It looks a little corny, but like,
wasn't it based on a book too, if I recall?
Yes, the book by Peter Benchley. Who Peter Benchley was actually in the movie. He's the guy that plays the. He does like a one take of. He's the news reporter. He's the news reporter on the beach. Yeah, that one quick shot. It's kind of funny. It's that he's actually in the book.
And the poster is terrifying in itself.
Yeah, and I'm like, but fake shark aside, that movie, even to this day, different generations, no matter when you watch this movie, it scares the shit out of you. You don't want to go in the fucking ocean.
This movie is why I was scared to go swimming most of my life. I'm not
stupid. As you go into the 6 foot end of the pool, and you're like, there's a fucking shark in here.
I know.
It's dumb, but like,
that's my life.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a fun little fucking summer romp movie, and yeah,
and again, it did spur on how many, I don't even know how to count. Like,
I'm not talking. We don't.
Films.
Nope, Josh. Nope. Didn't happen. That didn't happen. Nope.
No. I'm just saying that this has spurred on a whole like genre of movies.
Oh, I thought you meant there were sequels. I'm like, I know.
No. I'm just saying, like the Jason Statham one, and then when it came out, which is also based on books. But it's just so crazy to me that this one movie, this one book, has created a whole genre of that one with Blake Lively, where she's in the ocean in Mexico by herself.
Oh, she's rock, yeah.
I mean, it's just fascinating how this one project has spurred on a whole genre.
And also, we got that dope ass, like, out of nowhere Sam Jackson death in Deep Blue Sea. Shark just hits him right and just fucking drags him right under. You're like, whoa. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I really need to explain that movie. I'm pretty sure most of us have all seen it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, one of the great.
I love it.
Yeah, one of the great things about it is it's still terrifying. It's like it is kind of.
You guys have talked about it before. That musical, that 3-note combination, just send tingles.
There's a keyboard right behind me. I could do it right now. And it's like I think he said he sat down with Spielberg or something like that. John Williams, I fucking love you, you goddamn mastermind. He sat there. He just didn't. He thought he was fucking around and didn't.
It makes you wonder if he forgot to do it and he had a deadline and go, I got to put something together fast.
Here's
Fuck.
these two notes. Have fun.
Just put his hand on the keyboard and go,
Right.
well, that'll work.
And then he thought, wait a minute, here you go. And he's like, yeah. It sounds like, he's like, you imagine like the driving force of this shark. That's why that first shot's like a POV. It's just moving through the fucking water. And the fucking, this is a way to really roll with your punches. Like trying to work in Martha's Vineyard in that cold ass fucking water, which props to all the actors, but also to the guys that tried to make
summer movies, non-summer months, and they do this in Hollywood. Maybe Frank, you can answer that. Why do they fake seasons? Why can't they wait till that season to film it? It makes no sense.
No, that's the magic of it. You wouldn't know.
Well,
it happens
a lot of it is,
but it could be
schedules.
scheduling conflicts. Yeah, with scheduling, you can't really get,
It seems that you couldn't schedule it.
Well, a lot of it is filming schedules. Generally speaking, when they make like these Lifetime movies and TV movies for Christmas, they generally film those in the spring and summer so they can get the editing and any kind of post-production stuff done so that they can be ready to release in like November. So you don't really have a choice but to kind of film your Christmas stuff in summer. Because, I mean, otherwise you film something like the Santa Claus. You would film it in December in Chicago, and then you'd finish it up, and then it's sitting on a shelf, or it's in the can, as it said, and then it's in the can for 6 months. And when you're trying to fight the piracy and stuff like that has been kind of plaguing them for a while, then the longer you have something sitting on the shelf or just kind of not released, the more likely it is to get pirated. So that's why they really want to try to keep the time between when the film is wrapped and cut and ready to go and when it's released to as much of a minimum as they can. But also, I mean, you make some movies for a certain season, so that's the way it goes.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is like, and they did that and it was cold, but we're also talking about the Atlantic, so I mean it is kind of cold to begin with and murky and shit. But I mean, the fact that they had fucking 3 different sharks. They had one that had a cutaway on one side, and then one was on the other side. So you only had one that could only move right, and then one that only moved left. Then you had the shark. You had like maybe the head. I mean, really. And they undercut some real footage of some sharks from like Australia or something. They had a miniature cage.
This might be up your alley, Jeremy. They did some epic prop making for the time that was like the animatronic shark. Like it was a big deal that they were able to do what they did back then. I remember hearing about that.
That's what I'm getting to. It's like the fact that, I mean, it was almost like a joke. I think they called it the Great White Turd or something because it made them so mad because it wouldn't work. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're putting it in this water. The mechanics are gonna like seize up and shit. And I mean, when you jump forward a little bit to like Jurassic Park with Spielberg, there's a scene where the fucking T-Rex head actually fell through the glass of the truck. It wasn't supposed to do that because the rain water they were using was making it so heavy it just actually broke. That was unscripted. The kids actually screamed, and the water would make the T-Rex shake and shiver, like the animatronics were like.
That's great. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, I was like, next time you watch that thing, boom, go through the thing. That was for real. They actually accidentally dropped it through the fucking roof of the car.
Nice.
But that's what I mean is he had to get around the fact that this damn shark isn't working. So what's a way to create fear? The less you see of it, the more terrifying it is because you don't know what the fuck it looks like or how big it is, Or just you get that little slight glimpse in the water where you just kind of see his mouth come up to get that guy off the fucking the boat and scare the shit out of the kid. Yeah, right? Sends a chill down your fucking spine. And then when you see it, it's just like, whoa.
And it became a tactic that was used in a lot of movies moving forward. I mean, if you look at some of the more modern stuff like Cloverfield, you didn't really get a good look at the monster towards the end.
They didn't let you see it, the face of it right away.
Yeah, stuff like A Quiet Place, you don't really know what's out there. You hear things and you know it's out there because of what they're doing, but you don't really see it until late in the third act is when you finally get a chance to see one of the monsters. So it's The Mist. Yeah, The Mist.
You don't know what's going on inside. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. It's become a pretty solid trope in some of the jump scary kind of movies. But that
works.
Yeah, and that is Jaws. I can't knock Jeremy for picking this movie at all. It is an absolute classic. Some people put this in their top 5 films ever made. I can't argue against that. So if you guys haven't seen Jaws, take a minute. Also, it was one of the first movies to really have a tagline that hit. like just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. That is still something that is quoted to this day. And either joking or kind of or what, it's something that's thrown out there. Well,
people even still it was an ad lib too when Brody walked in the boat and he goes, "You're gonna need a bigger boat."
Yeah.
Like people still say that shit to this day. I'm like, that's amazing that was ad lib too.
No doubt.
Jesus.
But before I move on to my first film, let's go ahead and take a shot at everybody in the chat. What's going on? See, the artist formerly known as Jabroni Jabber Brody. He says it's a great flick. His partner Nick, Dr. Nick, is in there. What's going on? JSP, Michael Sags. Let's see, Miss Cora, who's on the call with us, of course. Who else is in here? Penny the Pooh in here earlier on. Sonic Boom. What's going on to you, Scott? And let's see who else was in here early. Drew came in because I was taking a shot at the chat in his live stream. What's going on, Drew? TSS2. What's going on to you, my man? Thanks all you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Now, I'll give you my first movie. And I don't know, where do I start? I'm going to go ahead and start with one that I guess I've already kind of mentioned, and that's Hell's Angels, the absolute epic movie that was made by Howard Hughes back in the day. Have you ever seen The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes.
This is the movie that this is the film that he's making in the beginning of that movie. It's kind of one of the things I've always liked about that movie, about The Aviator, was it does kind of show how chaotic and anal Howard Hughes making movies was, because I've read a lot about him. I've watched some documentaries over the years, because I find Howard Hughes a fascinating character.
Gene Harlow, wow.
Eat your heart out, Kubrick.
Yeah, and
or David Fincher, whoever you want to go with.
Yeah, all you guys. But he wanted to make a war movie that was legit. The detail-oriented nature of kind of how OCD he was, even early in his life when he was younger, it really came through in this movie. But I mean, those details, they really make this movie better than I think it would have been had he not been such an anal retentive asshole about the whole thing. He very famously, this was up until you can adjust for inflation and all that. I think it's still one of the top 5 most expensive movies ever made. So this was up there with like Marvel spending $250 million on the Avengers kind of price tag. He actually shot the entire movie twice. He shot it once as a silent film, but when he was in the process of getting ready to release it and edit and stuff like that, some of the first talkies started to come out. And so he was like, "Oh no, now we need to reshoot all this stuff for sound." So he reshot a vast majority of it. He overdubbed some of it, but then he ended up reshooting a lot of the movie for sound because he was like, "Hey, I love this technology. I want this to be in sound now." And then just went ahead and did it and spent and then doubled the budget, spending another like $4 or $5 million, which back in 1930 whatever was a great deal of money.
It was a lot of money.
So, but then on top of that, you get Gene Harlow. I mean, Ben Lyne and James Hall were actually pretty established stars back in the 30s already. Gene Harlow was discovered, of course, by Howard Hughes in this film. And all this stuff is just not even including the fact that the story itself is actually pretty good. But he discovered Gene Harlow for this film. She's in the movie for all of probably 15 minutes or so. But she makes such a big impact on the film, and especially that she is in all the marketing. She's on almost every poster that came out for this film, even though she's only really in it for about 15 minutes. But this was probably the most successful thing she had. Yeah, sell it with the blonde bombshells. That was what sold everything back in the 30s.
It worked.
But then you get to the movie, and it's kind of the story is kind of interesting. Ben Lyne and James Hall, they're these two younger guys that are in school over in England, or they're at one of the big schools in England, Cambridge. They're in school at Cambridge. And one of their classmates and friends is a German who was there, and this was in the early days of leading up to World War I. And so, of course, it ends up that, the war breaks out. These two guys go in the military. Their friend, the German, goes back home and joins the German military because they all thought that they needed to, go fight for their home countries. And it just kind of follows a bit of their stories all the way through the war. And one of the great things about it is the ending. I don't want to spoil too much of the ending, but I mean, Ben Lyne and James Hall end up getting captured. They're in, this camp that's run by the Germans, and just kind of like the way they handled it all in the camp was also very, very interesting. It's very intriguing to think about these two characters in this position, because Ben Lyne and James Hall play brothers. So they both end up going to the military. They struggle with some of the stuff that they have to do when they're fighting this war, as most people even today do, struggling with the reality of having to shoot at other human beings can be a struggle for some people. But there was a lot of different angles that this movie came at you from. A lot of them were kind of emotional, and then of course you get that really cool shot of the blimp exploding as they're trying to bomb London. That was one of the cooler scenes I've ever seen in cinema. And just in the sacrifices that some of the German officers made on that ship to try to not. Of course, I don't agree with the German side of things for the war, but I mean, just because they're trying to do their thing, so some of the sacrifices they make to try to complete their mission, it's all a really, really good movie. And again, this is one of the movies that I found after I started to go back and watch other things. Mm-hmm. I was like, holy shit, Howard Hughes could actually make a pretty good movie. And I think this is kind of a classic film for a reason because. Again, you've got the young Jean Harlow, who her career was unfortunately very, very short. She passed away very young. I think she did this and a few other big movies, and then she passed away of some kind of an infection or pneumonia or something like that.
Boy.
Of the 2 or 3 movies that she made that were really big and she's best known for, this is one of them. And then, like I said, Ben Lyne and James Hall, who were they were stars all the way into the 50s. So those guys had great careers going on. And then Howard Hughes, so enigmatic anyway, just having his name on it was kind of interesting. But yeah, it's one of the...
I got to go into the Spruce Goose plane that he made. Holy shit, that thing is huge.
I've always wanted to see the H-1 Hercules.
Yeah, it's in Oregon. They actually had to cut the wings down a little bit to get it in the building they custom made for it. If his movie making is anything like his plane making, he must have been a real tough son of a bitch to work for. Like, he must have been such a perfectionist.
I've seen some documentaries and stuff.
Someone who very, very briefly went to school for aviation maintenance, I will tell you how anal that shit is because you can't get that shit wrong. You're talking about a plane here.
Well,
the
thing about Howard Hughes is I've heard in several documentaries other people that have either known him or have talked to people that knew him very well. They said that Howard Hughes was not necessarily the smart one. His biggest skill was picking other people's brains. So he was
an organizer.
No, it's not just that he was the organizer who took all the credit. He was very, very smart and knew his shit. But when he didn't know something, he went to the people. He would find the top 5 or 6 people in the world at that whatever it was, and he would bring those guys in and say, "Talk to me about this stuff so I can learn it." And he would learn it all. So it wasn't that he necessarily went to school and got educated in it. It's just that he would intake information and store it in a way that a lot of people couldn't. So he would bring in like the 4 or 5 best people in the world at whatever, and he would say, "Okay, let's talk about this." And he would just learn from these guys the different angles, the ins and outs of all of it. And he would of course put together his own kind of way of doing things, and then it would all work. I mean, he was the Elon Musk of the early 20th century.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, for those of you who haven't seen Hell's Angels, definitely go check that out. Jeremy, I actually have this on bootleg DVD if you ever want to borrow it one day. I've got this and one other Howard Hughes movie. I forget which one it is. Oh, Scarface, the original Scarface. That was a Howard Hughes movie.
I actually have that one. So, I actually own that one on DVD because I never knew that was actually a remake. And I was like, oh, what the hell, really?
Yeah, the original Scarface was a movie that Howard Hughes did. It was based on Chicago mobsters. I think he made it shortly after he made this one.
Yeah, because it was about like bootlegging and shit. And it's, because the both movies kind of deal with the shit of the times. Like that was like in the 30s, it was mobsters and bootlegging moonshine and shit like that. And then this one was, in the 80s with cocaine. Fun.
Yeah, no doubt. But so that's Hell's Angels, and is the donation going to play? We had a little bit of a donation come in a couple minutes ago. I swear to God, every time I think I have this donation thing figured out, it doesn't want to work. I tested it, and it didn't want to work. Let me do this real quick, because people were, kind enough to send in a buck and say hi and ask us some questions. I want to make sure it works. So let's refresh that to make. Hopefully, it'll come back up. It will. Sure, it will, because it always does. There we go, and then we'll try to drop that in there again. And I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not coming up. But Michael Sachs Jr. sent in a buck and says, "What do you in the chat think about the movie The Rocketeer?" Jeremy, I'll let you start with this one because I think you've seen that movie. I think me and you have talked about this movie more than once.
I've never seen it.
No, I don't actually think I've seen that, to be honest.
Really? Disney movie that came out in the it was mid-90s.
No, I've not seen that.
Yeah.
All I'm thinking of is from the fucking Family Guy song when they're talking about renting the Rocketeer. And I'm like, that's all I'm thinking. I can't get that out of my head now.
It was entertaining. I mean, it wasn't. This is before Disney had. Well, I mean, they were still Disney. They were, I don't know. It was quintessentially 90s. I thought it was an entertaining movie. It's basically this guy in the 40s finds, in the early 40s, in the early days of World War One or World War Two, finds this jetpack that Howard Hughes was developing. There's a guy that actually plays Howard Hughes in the film, so Howard Hughes has a small role, and crazy things happen. It's got Alan Arkin in it, who I absolutely love. I was talking about him the other day. So I love anything with Alan Arkin in it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, there you go, Michael Sachs Jr., and I really got to figure out why those donations don't show up on the screen. But anyway, now we're going to get back to Lady Cora, and what's the next movie that you'd like to talk about?
To Catch a Thief from 1955 with Grace and Cary Grant. It's a Hitchcock. First of all, I love everything Hitchcock. So it was hard to narrow down my most favorite of them all. Rear Window, Dial M for Murder, The Birds, and this kind of tie. But
Psycho?
No, I'm not really a fan. I mean, I like it, but it's not my top, I don't know. But this one specifically I love because it's kind of like a love story. Basically, the film stars Cary Grant as a retired cat burglar who has to save his reformed reputation because he doesn't do that anymore by catching an imposter preying on the wealthy tourists of the French Riviera. Kelly stars opposite him as his romantic interest in her final film with Hitchcock. Basically, the visuals are stunning. They're driving around a convertible in the French Riviera. The costuming is amazing. The acting is fantastic. It's a great caper/mystery movie. It is based on a book. Let's see. It won Best Cinematography Academy Award, Art Direction, and Costume Design. It's in the top 100 of AFI's passion films or something. Didn't know about that list until I looked it up. But it has two of my favorite old school actors, and I admit I had a crush on Cary Grant ever since I was a little kid. Something about his accent, how he looked in a suit. I don't know. And Grace Kelly, she became a fucking real princess. She's stunning in her acting and her beauty. And this is just kind of like a perfect, low ball, scary Hitchcock, but still has Hitchcock qualities to it kind of movie. And I love it, love it, love it. And if you movies, this is one of the lighter fare ones. It's not as dark or dramatic, but it's equally amazing. So there you go.
I haven't seen this one. I mean, I've seen many of Hitchcock's films, but it's mostly like The Birds, things like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because this is a lighter one, I have not seen it, so I've seen all the darker Hitchcock shit. That's what I go there for.
Yeah, this was more of a heist movie rather than a suspenseful kind of thing, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely a little bit out of Hitchcock's usual kind of genre. I may have to go check this one out because I'm interested to see. I always like it when directors kind of go out of their usual niche to go.
Honestly, if your life like chick flicks and you want something that's kind of like a chick flick to make her happy but still isn't quite a chick flick, this is the movie. Because they do kind of have this love story in it. So yeah.
Every movie's not kind of a love story anymore though.
No, but this one actually is. It's very
Norman Bates loved his mom. God
damn. Oh boy, Jeremy.
Just
in a rather weird way, you'd have to admit.
My boy's best friend is his mother.
Oh boy.
Yes.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
So yeah, this represents the larger pick of everything Hitchcock for me. So I just picked one of them to represent that.
Yeah, like I said, whenever I hear Hitchcock, I always think The Birds or something like that. I don't, Rear Window, that kind of thing. I don't usually.
Dial M for Murder is also lighter fare.
Isn't that North by Northwest?
So, yeah.
Isn't that one? I'm drawing a blank on that.
Dial M for Murder is about a married woman who thinks she's happy in her marriage, and she figures out her husband's trying to kill her.
No. I'm talking about North by Northwest. I was trying to figure out that was Hitchcock, and it is.
It is, and it also has Cary Grant in it. Yeah, that's good.
So you're welcome. Damn good movie.
Definitely go check out To Catch a Thief. I'm gonna have to go watch this one. Cora's got me kind of interested in it because, like I said, I like it when directors kind of step away from their niche of movies they usually do to try something different. Because
but you still trust him to the Hitchcock.
Well, I mean, yeah, you trust the name, and not knowing exactly when this movie came out. I'm assuming it came out when Hitchcock was already well into 55. His career. I mean, it seemed like he started when he was in his 100 years old.
And a lot of people don't know this. His wife actually helped him do all his work, and he gave her no credit.
Really?
A lot of people who worked with him back in the day, his wife made half the decisions and gave him half the inspiration for stuff at least, and he took all the credit.
Oh wow!
So,
nice.
Well, he was kind of a dick to women, so that's why Tippi had.
But the context, but her even if she didn't fully get credit, she still was part of it, and she got to see it come to fruition. So that's pretty cool.
True.
No doubt, but yeah, definitely go check out To Catch a Thief. I'm gonna have to look for this one next as well. But Jeremy, what's the next movie you want to talk about?
You were talking about the 30s, so I guess that's a good time to talk about. I guess my furthest back movie. And again, I don't need to explain myself too much. My next one was The Wizard of Oz from 1939.
I had thought of that. Jesus.
Well, look, when I wrote this shit down, I started feeling bad. I'm like, that's from the 70s, that's from the 70s, that's from the 70s. I'm like, okay, wait. I got to break out of this a little bit because this just becomes this becomes a decades thing. I'm like, shit, hold on. So I had to go back. Because, I mean, most of these... yes, 3 out of these are ones that I watched, as a kid. So I was like, I just reverted back to my childhood with this one. So this one, it's like, even that little opening text, like it says, I mean, this is a movie for everyone, for all ages. Like, for those young at heart, it doesn't matter. Anybody can still watch this movie now, and that's the thing. It's from fucking 1939, and you can still watch this shit today. It's still blows my mind. It's like,
I was gonna say, did you know this is one of 14 books in a book series? I mean, this story goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I knew it was a book series. Actually, what
Frank Baum, I think. But yeah,
yes.
He died without finishing them, and I think somebody else finished them. I mean, we're talking astronomical amounts of books. Makes Harry Potter look like nothing.
Right. That's the thing about. I mean, because we all know the Wizard of Oz, but here's the weird thing. I was on, again, as you do, as a 20-something-year-old does. I'm on Turner Classic Movies at fucking 9 o'clock at night, and something I came across there said the Wizard of Oz. I was like, "Ooh, Wizard of Oz!" But then it said 1925. I was like, "That's not the thing, huh?" It was a silent film of it. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, cool.
I sat in and I was like, "All right, what's this about?" And then I watched it. It wasn't long, but I mean, it was a silent film, so you take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But that's what it opened up with. It was this kid comes in with I guess he's the grandfather or whatever. He's tinkering on it looks like a little toy. It's of the Tin Man or whatever. And he comes in with this book, and it's the book of the thing. So it's the grandfather just starts telling him the story, and it's which makes me wonder. I don't know, between this one and that one, what was really a part of the book? Because I'm like, this has nothing. This.
Well, you should know this. The books are very dark. They're very dark, and this is a very Disney down version of the story.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I like to be happy and stuff, and just be in the Yellow Brick Road. Okay.
Well, look at the difference of the Willy Wonka movies, the Tim Burton one and the one made before. I mean, that's the difference.
Well, they're both
the actual
dark
books are.
They're both dark in their own right, in different ways. Both movies. I guess if I want to say honorable mention, I almost did pick Willy Wonka, but again, that's from the 70s, and I stopped myself. So, I'm sorry. I was like, ooh, Willy Wonka. No, that's in the 70s. Fine. But anyway, back to Munchkin Land and shit like that. I don't know. It's a great movie. It's a little adventure movie, fucking, friendship.
Didn't we talk about once how much work it was to make the Tin Man look like the Tin Man with the paint?
Yeah, and because it was actually Buddy Epson, I think was his name, the guy from Beverly Hillbillies, who actually was originally the Tin Man, but he had an allergic reaction to the paint, so he couldn't do it, which is really unfortunate.
Well, they had basically dusted his face with aluminum dust, and he was inhaling
I'm like, what are you gonna do?
He was having bad respiratory problems, so ended up having to drop out of the movie, and that was when they brought in Jack Haley.
Yeah, like it's the 30s. What are you gonna fucking do, man? Like, good on you for trying, because I don't know if I'd be able to do that, or be dancing around that fucking lion suit, sweating my fucking balls off.
I don't know.
Or even this fucking the scarecrow.
I don't know if you
It's just gonna
guys
be hot.
watched this guy that I watched called Minty Comedic Arts. He does these 10 things you didn't know about different movies, and I'll if I can find the link to the video real quick. He actually just in the last day or so released a video about this movie, and there was some very interesting shit in there that I didn't know. For one, Victor Fleming, this movie actually went through a couple of different directors before they got to Victor Fleming. And there was another director, I forget who it was, that actually had started to film this and then left to go film Gone with the Wind.
Say from the same year.
Victor Fleming, yes, these filmed around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So Victor Fleming came in to film The Wizard of Oz. And ironically enough, this same director...
Oh, we'll pick that one too.
Yeah, this same director bailed on Gone with the Wind. So Victor Fleming ended up leaving Wizard of Oz to go finish Gone with the Wind. And somebody else, I forget who, it may have been Mervyn LeRoy, since that's probably why he got the production credit, actually ended up finishing the film, including the musical number of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which was not put in originally, and was almost taken out after test screenings because they thought it slowed down the pace of the movie. But because
that's why they smack him with the tornado right after.
Yeah, because it was actually the tornado scene. So the tornado scene and the musical number with Somewhere Over the Rainbow, actually he didn't direct those. It was the guy that came in after that and directed them very late in the production. Wow. So just kind of weird how things... Yeah, and they almost pulled it out of the movie because they thought it slowed down the pace of the movie too much. So yeah, just very, very weird. I'll try to find that real quick. But
watch it now.
It was but it's a very interesting video by this guy. It's Minty Comedic Arts. And I'll when did I watch it? I watched it earlier today. I'm pretty sure there it is. I'll try to dump it in the chat real quick because I mean I'll tell you guys to go check this guy's channel out a lot because he's a really, really fun guy to watch. He's a guy from Australia. I think he's got not Down syndrome. What's he's got? Like autism. And so what he does is he just makes these videos about 10 weird things about different movies, and it's stuff from like Wizard of Oz, Demolition Man. I mean, just all he is literally a fan of just movies, and he just loves to dig into all this stuff. But I'll get that and put the link in the chat so you guys can go check that out if you'd like.
I was gonna say also someone else who had some fucking trouble filming that movie was I know her name, but I can't remember who played the Wicked Witch when she did the little fire stunt when she fucking like the red smoke and then like went to the floor.
I love that scene.
Yeah, I didn't. And he even mentions in his video that they had shot that scene.
She burned
once.
herself.
Yeah, and that they had
That's
got
the only
it, and
shot
it was
that
good.
actually worked.
Yeah, and they got it. It was good, but they wanted to do another one just to have another take, and that was when she ended up getting like really bad burns over like 30% of her body. So she ended up for like 5 weeks or something she was convalescing from getting some pretty rough burns. But yeah, I just put the link to Minty Comedic Arts video in the chat if you guys want to go check that guy out at some point. He's got a really, really cool channel that I really enjoy. But so that's the Wizard.
I'm going to say something that I actually just even said today out of my own mouth. I said, "Fuck them goddamn flying monkeys." That shit scared that scared me as a kid.
Yeah,
I don't know what the fuck it was, but that was the only part I didn't like was them damn flying monkeys.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
it's the Wizard of Oz. I don't think we need to talk about it all too much. Everybody's seen that damn movie. But
I do have a fun story about it real quick, though. So my mom was born in 60, okay? And so I remember her telling me that when she was, 5 or 6 years old, Wizard of Oz was on TV. And because it starts out in black and white, right? And she'd never seen it before. And she still remembers the moment when it went from black and white to color, and she gasped, goes, "Oh!" And it was like this moment.
Because it's supposed to feel like that. Yeah.
Right. And so I asked her about it, and she told me when I was asking about it later, she goes, "Yeah, a lot of people who saw it in the theater were shocked that it went from black and white to color, and people who hadn't seen it the first time were just like, whoa." So that was like a really cool thing about that movie. So that's my little story.
She's supposed to be in like that dreamland that's supposed to just hit you like, whoa, holy shit. That's what always blew my mind about that. Is like I guess growing up I didn't know that stupid little thing I can do now where you can tell me any movie. I can probably tell you what fucking year it came out. I didn't know it was in 39, and I'm like, holy shit, they had that in 30. you don't start talking about like fucking color movies until like maybe the 50s, maybe the 60s at least. And I'm like, holy shit.
And a lot of people didn't have color TVs for many years after color TV came out. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was a couple of big advancements in filmmaking, technologically speaking, period, that movie. Very, very good. But before we move on with my next pick, just want to go to the chat and see what some of you guys are saying. Van Anderwood says some of his favorite pre-80s movies are The Great Escape, can't argue that. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Dirty Harry, Smokey and the Bandit, Longest Yard, The Hustler, and Sierra... I'm assuming he means Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which I can't argue that either. Those are all some very, very good movies. True. The Dirty Harry movies are fantastic. Those are some of the best. I mean, think about that. They are a bit on the tacky side when you just think about how films were made back then. But I mean, come on, it's Clint Eastwood. There was the guy could do no wrong. My day. Van also says in the chat, I'm gonna get killed for this, but I've never seen a single Star Wars film. I'm gonna tell you right now, I envy you for that, because I would love to go back and see Star Wars again for the first time.
Right.
All the films, even the bad ones.
Right.
I would love, because I remember being excited to go in and see the prequels, even though they weren't that good. But I remember just going to see a new Star Wars movie was fun.
At least it's not the holiday special. It could be worse.
That's on YouTube, by the way.
Kudos to you for not feeling pressured to watch it, by the way. If you haven't wanted to watch it, it's great that you've chose not to. So,
JSP says personal favorites include the Sabata movie starring Lee Van Cleef. I'm not sure I know about those. I was looking at those. High Plains Drifter, not bad. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, again, good. The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer, that's a nice one from what, the 50s? I want to say that's from the 50s. Maybe. I could be wrong on that. JSP, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong.
No.
But yeah, I can't disagree with any of those movies you guys have brought up. So yeah, those are good films as well. But now I'll move on with my next selection. And my next selection, I'm going to go way old school for you guys again. Angels with Dirty Faces with James Cagney and Pat O'Brien. This was actually one of the kind of earlier films for Humphrey Bogart as well, I believe. This was as he was kind of coming into his fame. Because I know he was obviously huge in the late 50s and into the 60s. But this one being early 50s, it's kind of a fantastic story. Basically what it is Cagney and O'Brien are these two guys that grew up on the streets of New York together, but their lives go in very different directions. Cagney goes the way of with the street kids, getting involved in the nefarious stuff that you do to make money when you hang out on the streets. Pat O'Brien's character goes on to become a priest. So their lives diverge and go in very different directions, but they come back together after so many years of not having seen each other for a while. And obviously their different career tracks have kind of they kind of shock each other with their different career tracks. But eventually you get to the point in the movie where Cagney gets in trouble for doing something, and O'Brien is the priest, kind of trying to just talk to him about his life choices and whatnot. Now Cagney ends up getting the death penalty for something he does in the movie. And so at the end of the movie, Pat O'Brien comes to this guy. And I'm going to spoil this for you because, A, I don't know if you guys are going to go watch it anyway. And B, I just think this is one of the most emotional scenes that I've ever seen in a movie. And I think it's because of these two guys.
I've seen it, but I've forgotten most of it. But I have seen it.
Yeah, I just think...
I have not seen it.
Yeah, these two guys... I actually have this on DVD as well, a bootleg copy of it on DVD. But what ends up happening is there's this group of kids called the Dead End Kids. And they really look up to Cagney because they're coming up on the street. They don't have much hope because they come from poor families and whatnot. And so Pat O'Brien looks at Cagney as he's getting ready to walk to the electric chair, and he says, "Hey, I need you to do me a favor. This is the one thing you can do in life that can give you some kind of absolution." He's like, when you go, because Cagney is he's a tough guy. He's not afraid of anything, even in the face of death. He's like, whatever, screw you guys. I don't care, blah, blah, blah. But Pat O'Brien looks at Cagney and says, I need you to show remorseful and to act scared. He's like, I know you're not, and I get it. He's like, but I need to show these kids that this is not the path that they want to go down, because I don't want any of them to end up in the electric chair one day like you are. So Cagney, of course, tough guy, screw that, I'm not going to do that. I'm facing my my ending like a man, blah, blah, blah. But as he's walking to the electric chair, he has a change of heart. And so he just kind of decides, okay, whatever, I'm going to go ahead and cry. And then so he kind of freaks out and cries, and he shows these kids. And it's really emotional to see Pat O'Brien understanding what's happening in the moment, that even though Cagney wants to face it like a man just to have his image for those last few minutes of his life, he decides to ultimately do the right thing in his final minutes and show these kids that you don't really want to go this route. And so Pat O'Brien's reaction, he starts crying. It's a very emotional moment. I thought it was fantastic. And then, of course, George Bancroft is also in it as well. This is one of his earlier roles, but he did a lot of stuff through the '60s. He did a lot of stuff with Sinatra, and I think everything going forward too.
Nice.
But yeah, it is kind of this cool movie about these friends that go different directions, come back together, and even though they're still very different people, they still have this understanding between one another that real friends always have, even if you don't talk for a long time. I mean, everybody's got those one or two friends where you're kind of always on, you're always in the same mental level. It was really cool to see these guys in that character, these characters like that. I think it's a fantastic movie. I haven't watched it in a while. I need to go back and watch it again. This was one of those movies that I was watching like once a week for a while just because it's so enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. We all have those.
Oh yeah, but honestly, I say go back to the 30s and 40s for a lot of good story, because this is before they had CGI and stuff like that. You had to have good dialogue and a good story to get people to come watch your shit at the theaters. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of those movies from this era are very timeless. They carry on from one generation to the next very easily because they do really get to you at an emotional level. You had to back then. You couldn't just rely on having Cagney in your movie. You had to have a real good story and good emotion.
Indeed.
But yeah, I mean, definitely.
And people like Cagney wouldn't just take any movie role either. I think he was one of those that picked roles that were actually poignant and well written.
And this was Cagney in his prime too. This wasn't something Cagney did early in his career because he just wanted to get a job. I mean, this was still Cagney in his prime. I mean, he was really at this point. He was maybe even the biggest star in Hollywood, depending on who you would talk to or whatever names you would throw out there. But yeah, this is prime Cagney. And again, you get a young Humphrey Bogart. He doesn't have a huge role, but it's a significant one still. And of course, Humphrey Bogart would go on to be Humphrey Bogart for 20 years. I mean, that guy was just a star. But anyway, Angels with Dirty Faces. I know that movie sounds like a really bad porn name, but trust me, it's a great movie. It really is a good movie.
I wasn't going there, but now I am. God damn it!
As I was like looking for the poster last night, I was like, God, this sounds like a really bad porn name. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it on.
You're gonna, yeah,
because it's a great movie. Anyway, Miss Cora, what's the next movie you'd like to talk about tonight?
It's called Follow the Fleet from 1936. It's one of 10 of the Fred and Ginger movies that came out. Fred Astaire and Ginger, their career started as being dancers and singers, and they kind of became actors because of their talents. They didn't go into acting, you know what I mean? Some people go into acting and develop the skills to get the roles. It was the reverse for them. They just had a really great chemistry together, and that's why they made so many movies together. And man, they pumped out some serious, like, high box office hits and broke some records for their day. This movie I picked specifically, it's a heartwarming and sweet wartime love story about a couple who have not gotten together at the right time yet. They know each other, but you know what I'm saying? It's like they know it's there, but they're meant to be together, but it never quite lines up.
Yeah.
Well, he's on shore leave. She's singing at a club, and they run into each other, and then they do a dance contest, and they rekindle, and then it's all about in the end how they end up together. And there's some great supporting cast roles in this movie. And like the Hitchcock, this represents all Fred and Ginger movies for me. I'm not a musical person. I do not like musicals, generally speaking. However, anything with Irving Berlin music and random, cameos of Betty Grable and Lucille Ball, I'm in. When you're a little girl, at least for me, who is inclined to like dress up and such, the dresses and the hair is so beautiful back then in these movies. I mean, it's like playing dress up watching these movies. But and some of their movies, like The Gay Divorce, is a little campy and silly, and like physical comedy fun. But this one really was a cute one for me, one of my favorites. And I own it. I watch it regularly. And Fred Astaire was just an amazing guy. He started out in vaudeville with his sister, his original first partner, at a very young age. And Ginger Rogers started out dancing and had married, and they just kind of end up crossing paths and have this time period where they just made magical films together. And if you haven't seen a Fred and Ginger movie, pick a random one and try it. You might love it or hate it, but it really is, in my opinion, a symbol of a whole era time during our wartime that really kept people back home being quite not so sad and depressed. You know, like we go to the movies to feel better. This was one of those movies in a time of war that people would flock to kind of uplift their spirits. So there you go.
Yeah, real quick in the chat, I just want to say what's up to Night Watch. He just got voted best horror movie channel by I forget what it was, another YouTuber, but anyway, well worth it. If you guys are into the horror movie scene, go check out the Night Watch Zone.
Night Watch.
His link is in the description to every video. Him and his crew are over there doing great work. I'm still about 3 or 4 videos behind, so I need to go catch up on some of his stuff. But I think I'm up to the Terminator one. That's the one I got to watch next.
Made a message and put me on the damn show at least. It's something we can discuss.
Hey, reach out to him. And like I said, if anybody from this channel went over there, and probably send you because that's your wheelhouse. I'd say you're representing a heartbeat. But one of the great things about Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers though is when they were coming up in entertainment, they were heavily vaudeville trained. I mean that's when they were coming up, was that early 1900s. Of that form of entertainment, and I know that many of you out there don't remember vaudeville because you know that whole vaudeville scene's been dead since pretty much the 20s or 30s. But I mean, everything I've read about it is that you couldn't have one specialty in vaudeville. You had to be able to sing.
You had to be a triple threat.
More than that, you had to be funny. You had to be charismatic. I mean, you really had.
It was like a variety. It was a live variety show. You had to sing, dance, be funny.
That's what I mean. Like it was like when I watched. Like when I watched Singing in the Rain, I'm like, they all three, it's like you had to be that triple threat. You at least had to fucking know how to sing, dance, and act. You had that down, you at least had a fucking shot. I'm like, that's how it went.
And Fred Astaire just had this, I mean, first of all, he was very small and petite for a man, and he just had this amazing rhythm and charisma with dancing that you don't see often in men. And it just, I mean... fantastic. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely go check out Follow the Fleet. A lot of those movies back then, they were so enjoyable. I mean, it's like, I mean, you look at them, they're
campy and
they are campy and cheesy, but I mean, if you just want something that's positive and kind of makes you feel good for an hour and a half, go watch these movies. They make you feel good for an hour and a half.
A lot of people know Top Hat is one of their main ones, but this is one that's lesser known. And I think it's great. And it's great because Ginger Rogers wears pants in it, which wasn't very common back then.
Oh, yeah, that's a big statement to make. Back then, that was a huge statement.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge statement to make back then. But yeah, definitely go check out Follow the Fleet. Go check out anything Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Those two were...
And Irving Berlin. Man, that guy owned Hollywood for,
a while.
Music for many years.
For a long time. Some of the best musicals came from that guy. But Astaire and Rogers, I mean, they made 3 or 4. I mean, as far as like great chemistry on screen is concerned, Astaire and Rogers did multiple movies together because they were so good together.
Yep. So a lot of people thought they were together, but they were not.
They were not.
They just happened to be a great professional pairing.
They were. There's been a couple of them that worked out great in Hollywood. I mean, more recently, it's like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. It's like everything they did together was great.
Yeah, that's true.
The Wedding Singer is my favorite Adam Sandler movie.
Wedding Singer. Yes.
Oh my gosh, could we do that one night? Could we do Adam Sandler movies? There's so many of them.
I don't see why we couldn't. I mean, there are some good ones.
That would be great.
There are some good ones. But Jeremy, what's the next movie?
Yes, there are some.
There were some.
Hold on, it's a weird. Yes, there are some good ones. You go any.
Oh boy!
Past like the early 2000s, then I want to actually shoot myself in the fucking head if I ever see his face. But anyway, my next movie is talk about some happy Disney shit. Then, since I'm sorry, Sandler. I'm just saying, man, you just kind of fell off for me. That Billy Madison shit doesn't fucking work anymore in 2020. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, and actually, it's a Disney film. Again, something I watched the absolute shit out of as a kid. Is The Love Bug from 1968. Didn't check mark this, my bad. So, this is, pre-Christine, You can see where I'm going with this. If you know, you know. I'm trying to think. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't know if that was in the '60s. Shit. Anyway, so it's the story of this guy, Jim Douglas. Used to be a race car driver. He's kind of down on his luck. He's hurting for money, and he's like one of the older guys. So I don't know if he's like his promoter or something like that. This guy he's talking to, he's like, "Look, man, you're getting too old to do this shit anymore." And he's kind of like, "Well, this is all I know. This is all I do. Like, what do you want me to do, man?" And he's like, "Well, you're gonna get hurt. You're not gonna be able to do this anymore." So he's just, he just has this car in a showroom just catches his eye, and totally not the woman in the window didn't catch his eye either, So he just kind of goes in, and just kind of out of nowhere, this little VW just kind of comes up and whoop, just boops him right in the leg, and they're kind of like, "Where the hell did this car come from?" And it's some upstairs maid. Someone had it, and they're like, "Well, why doesn't she have her car?" And they said, "Well, the car's been giving her trouble." So the seeds have been planted. The car kind of attaches to him, and kind of gives him a little bit of trouble at first. But I'm gonna say his name is Herbie because thank you, Tennessee. Tennessee was his buddy's name. I was trying to think of the actor's name. So he discovers like, oh, holy crap, this little car can fucking move. So they start going into races, and then they start winning races more and more. It seems like his luck's turning around. But Jim starts to get this little ego going that like, I'm the one winning these races. I'm the one doing all this. He doesn't really fully appreciate the car for what it's doing for him. Not only just winning these races for him, but he's also kind of planting the seeds with the lady that was in the window. You know what I mean? She even says, the main bad guy is the guy that was in the showroom that she used to work for, who his whole shtick is he's trying to figure out, like, what's the deal with this car? Why is it doing what it's doing? Because there's no way it should. But that's just Disney magic for you. So it all comes around the end. He gets the girl. He, I guess gets a buddy in the car. I don't know. That's weird to say. There's a particularly dark scene. I didn't even think. I know it's the '60s and it's Disney, but like shit, man. Like Herbie about jumps over a fucking bridge, dude. he saves him. Ends up having to have Herbie save him because he flew over the fucking hood of the car. And there's a fun little, weed joke in there. The fucking cop's like, "Look, the car saved his life," and the older cop's like, "What do you mean the car saved his life?" He's like, "Well, that's what it looked like in the fog. How things look." He's like, "Yeah, you've been up on Haight-Ashbury too long." I'm like, oh, damn. It's one of the funniest fucking things. But it's a fun little Disney movie. I like it.
I know I've seen this movie. I remember watching it a bunch of times when I was like really young, like 8, 9 years old. But I honestly can't remember anything about it. It's just been so long since I've seen it. It's just one of those movies that just kind of falls off after a while.
I went back and watched it again recently. Yeah, I hadn't seen it in probably 10 years. Probably. So I was like, I haven't seen that in a minute. But it's like one of those, I wonder if it changed for me. I'm now an adult, but no, I still enjoyed it.
And I love the movie poster. It's really good one. I like it.
Movie posters were
movie posters.
Yeah, there was an art to movie posters for a long time that I don't think we really get in movie posters. It is art, man, yeah. Yeah, these days they're just advertisements. They're not, because I know movie trailers are still kind of an artistic thing, but like posters, they just aren't. They're all so generic sometimes. They're very rarely. They very rarely kind
or they're
of really
promoting it like a sponsor somehow by putting the car or something on it that paid money to be in the film. Yeah.
Something like that.
So
but
I like this one.
But back then, it's like, I mean, a lot of these posters were hand-drawn. I mean, just like this one, it looks like it was probably hand-drawn. I mean, so they were labors of love. They were pieces of art for whoever drew them. I mean, you see like these, especially some of the older stuff from like the 30s and the 40s. I mean, those things were hand-drawn and then like mass-produced from those drawings. They weren't just kind of like photoshopped with, an image here, an image there, maybe an explosion in the background, big bold letters at the top, and then like whatever movie stars' names are really, really big to try to sell the stars rather than the story or the movie. These posters were a lot different. There is something way more artistic about these older posters that I really, really miss. There was some lady on Antiques Roadshow that had like original posters from like Return of the Jedi and shit. They were like from the theater, and they were worth quite a bit of money, even just those. I'm like, holy shit! I mean, damn, I'd love to have one. You're sitting on a gold mine right now. Yeah, no doubt. see some of the stuff you guys are talking about in the chat right now. See, JSB is talking about The Wild Bunch, Day of Anger, the Sartana movies, Westworld. Westworld's pretty good. I haven't seen the newer Westworld stuff, but JSB also mentions the Dirty Harry movies. Let's see. We're talking about Yul Brynner in Westworld. Yeah. Van Edwards talking about Streetcar Named Desire just because everyone loves yelling Stella.
Stella. Right. Somebody almost actually guessed my next one because it does involve Brando. That doesn't make it obvious.
Well, Brando was in a lot of movies. It's not that obvious.
Yes, but I mean, I don't know. When you think of well, I don't know. That's I can't say if you think of Brando, what do you think of? That's fair.
Well,
okay.
Well, we'll go ahead.
Just let that sink for a second.
Yeah, we'll let that marinate for a second. Then we'll get back to Jeremy here in a minute.
All right.
But I'll go ahead and give you my next one. And my next one, I'm going to dip into Night Watch's territory a little bit with this one, into Jeremy's territory. He'll enjoy this.
See, one. I refused to do horror movies. I'm like, I could just do all 5 horror movies from my fucking. But I didn't.
I thought you would pick. I thought you would. Well, I mean, I guess Jaws is probably one, but I thought you'd pick at least one more. I'm kind of surprised you didn't.
Well, because my first thought again, I went to 70s. I thought, Texas Chainsaw. I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Everyone knows how much you love that movie. Don't do it.
I almost picked that one, but instead, I went with this one. I went with The Exorcist.
That was one of them too. Yes.
Good one.
So hopefully Knight and Jeremy are really excited about this one. Look, I mean, like Ellen Burstyn for one, fantastic.
I'm sitting here with a half chub. Are you kidding me? I'm excited now.
Yeah, Max von Sydow. I mean, come on. I mean, he just passed away in the last few years, and obviously the debut project of Linda Blair, who was so famous in that role. But I mean, The Exorcist. It was kind of the early generations of these movies that were, I mean, because you can scare somebody with the blood and guts and the chainsaw cutting people in half and the visuals, but there is this subconscious layer that we want to be tense. I mean, the scare doesn't always come from the boogeyman jumping out of the closet and yelling boo. There is a very scary situation, this spiritual aspect of this demon taking over, the devil taking over the girl's body and all that. But it was one of those first movies that really proved how, if you're capable of using that tension and that fear to get into people's heads without having to go right for the limb getting cut off or, the hockey mask,
the neck snapping around,
and the machete, and the Freddy with the claws. That if you can kind of go past that and get to the deeper primal things in the people's minds about what fear really is, and play on that, that's what makes some horror movies fantastic. And this is that movie. I mean, you ask most people, and I think, Night Watches in the chat, I think he might agree with this. It's like you ask most people, what's the scariest movie? Horror movie people. What is the scariest movie you've ever seen? This is one of the movies that a lot of people will throw at you. Mm-hmm. And it is very much almost its own genre of film. This psychological
It's on
thing.
the box art. It's like, that's the thing, is like, it's the scariest movie ever made. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give it to it. Because I also have to think, like, the time period is made, and that's why I try to set my mind to it. I'm like, I mean, I wasn't there, I can't imagine it, but I'm like, can you imagine when you think what else had been done like that? There's nothing like the Texas Chainsaw had been made, or like shit like two more that popped in my head from that era was like Rosemary's Baby or The Omen. Like, all I can think of is that fucking girl jumping out the damn, hanging herself. I'm like, whoa, like you come out of left field and like smack somebody in the senses with one of those, just holy shit. That's what this movie does for you.
Yeah, we talked earlier, we were talking about Jaws, about, not seeing the monster. How that psychological effect that you can have. That's one of the great things about this film, is that there is a psychological effect that it takes on the viewer in such a unique and different way. I mean, for one, you're already talking about, what is it, 73 when this movie came out, I think? So you're already talking in like early mid-70s when there's this kind of psychedelic lifestyle that's going on anyway. You got a lot of people that are smoking a lot of pot, dropping a lot of acid. Why not throw a movie out there like this that messes with your mind, man? It's so easy. Like I said, it's so easy to have the jump scares, the monsters cutting people up. But when you really get into someone's psyche and start tripping them out, like this movie does, you get to that primal fear that human beings don't want to really. Even people who like being scared don't really want to mess with that part. So when you get into that part of the brain, you can really screw with some people. That's what this movie does.
I think Father Karras is probably, like I said, I always had that one. I started coining this old term now. I'm like, this is an audience character. Where I'm like, that's who you're following. That's who you feel like you relate to. And that's who you're talking about. Like, it starts to mess with him. It tries to, like, get inside his head and start fucking with him. Like, talking about his mom, talking about him. I think he was. Oh, God, what was the other father's name? Oh, who was the older guy? Shit. Ah, fuck. Anyway, the guy that brought the damn brought that little thing back from fucking Iraq or whatever it was. Because I still, every time I watch that movie, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's right. This movie starts off in fucking the desert, and I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of relates in some way. He pulls that little stone face, the thing from that burial site or whatever.
Yeah. Van Edwards in the chat says he feels like the demonic possession movies are played out now and no one got it quite right like The Exorcist. There's been a couple. It's like The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I actually liked that. I thought that was a really good movie. It's kind of on the way to what The Exorcist did. It's not, like I said, it's the monster stuff is easy to make up, but that very, that very internal stuff that, really turning your brain inside out is a different kind of horror. I think that movie actually did it pretty well. The Exorcism of Emily Rose did. That's one of the more recent ones that I can think of that has done it. I can't think of a whole lot. Again, I haven't been as into the horror stuff as I was when I was younger. Because, I mean, the whole genre just took a dump in the 90s and it kind of turned me off. And even in the 2000s, it wasn't all that great. But yeah, I mean, there are some places like Blumhouse is kind of getting the genre back on its feet. They've done some pretty good stuff with some horror movies, and again, they've kind of gone to that suspense and stuff like that. They haven't really just done the straight up slasher film, which, I mean, those can still be fun, but they've kind of gone in the direction of trying to get inside people's heads as well as have those bloody moments to kind of compound the fear. So that's why I like some of the stuff that Blumhouse has been doing the last several years. But yeah, so I mean, I picked The Exorcist because it's one of my all-time favorite scary movies. I mean, this obviously, like Friday the the original Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and Van mentioned the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the chat just a second
ago.
The original Halloween. Yeah, the original ones from the late 70s and early 80s were great for horror movies. That's when people just they didn't give a fuck. They were okay to be scared and do outlandish shit. And then in the 90s, for some reason, everything became Scream. And I was never a big fan of Scream.
Well, hold on. Scream is genius for the fact that it is self-aware and makes fun of it. That's what made it so great. That's the whole point. Is it's supposed to be like, oh yeah, you don't go in the room alone. Oh yeah, you got to be a virgin. You don't fucking do this. There's the whole rules to horror movies that you follow. And that's the joke. Remember, you got to kill him. You got to shoot him again because he might come back for the jump scare. Shit! Boom! Shoots him again. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, well,
just a minute. Your mom's no Sharon Stone.
Yeah, no doubt. And that is The Exorcist. Now, before we go on any further, I have to do this real quick. This is Jeremy's favorite part of the show. Let's talk about the Patreon for just a second. I'll try to make this quick because I still have to set up the giveaway, which we're actually doing tonight. So,
nice.
If you go to the link that you see on the screen below and support the channel for just $5 a month, you can win $25 in free movie tickets that we give away every month, the first Thursday show of every month, to the theater of your choice. Generally speaking, I just said you $25. You can spend it whatever the hell you want. But I really want you guys to go see movies. Regal Cinemas, I think, is now fully opening all their stuff. Let's see, Cinemark and all the other stuff has been open for a while, trying to show the classic stuff, but now we're getting some new movies that are coming out. Godzilla's done well, Mortal Kombat's done pretty well. People are ready to go back to the movie theater, so let's go back to the theater. Let's support these people that are working at the box office and the concession stands. A lot of these are just young kids that are trying to work their way through life and find their place. Let's go help them out. Let's go see a movie. Let's go buy a bag of popcorn and a box of candy and a drink. And just go see a movie. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do, is just promote you guys to get back out there and enjoy the theater experience. So if you guys want to support us on Patreon, for just $5 a month, we give away $25 in free movie tickets every month. We'll be doing that later on in the show. And now we'll get back to the meat and potatoes of this whole show, and I think I'm next, aren't I? Which one do I go
No, you just
with?
did The Exorcist.
No, I just did The Exorcist. That's right. That means we're going to Cora. We're to Cora. See, I'm trying to skip all you guys.
Oh, my turn?
Yes, it is Cora's turn.
So
Your
this
mother
one is from
sucks cock in hell.
1953. It's called How to Marry a Millionaire, and don't judge it by the title. So this movie is a fucking powerhouse of a movie when it comes to the women at Betty Grable, Marilyn Monroe, and Lauren Bacall, all three co-leads. And they portray three gold diggers along with Wayne, Roy Calhoun, and Cameron Mitchell as their wealthy marks. Now, it sounds bad, but actually they're just three girls who want to get married and don't want to marry a poor guy. And so they set themselves out to find a, quote, rich guy, but they all end up falling in love for the right reasons and marrying guys who aren't rich. It's very cute. And although Grable received top billing and screen credits, Marilyn Monroe's name was listed first in all the advertising. They're all equals.
Right.
They're all equals, to be fair. And it just was fucking fantastic movie. I own this movie. I watch it probably once or twice a year. The film was a box office success, earning $8 million worldwide and made it Fox's second highest grossing movie that year. It has fantastic acting, like I said. It's well done musical score. And there's actually scenes at the beginning, in the middle, and the end of the actual symphony orchestra playing the musical score, which is really cool. And it's cute, funny, campy, and sweet, and very lovable. There's a scene where a part of the movie where they go out to the Vermont mountains in the snow. And then for the most part, it's set in New York City. And this is what was really cool for me when I first saw it. It portrays what New York City was like in the 50s. They show a lot of other iconic buildings and, views and street views in a way that like kind of transport you back in time a little bit. It's one of my faves, like I said, and there's a lot of vibrant colors in it. They use some new like Technicolor filming technique on this one for Fox, which was kind of a big deal, but honestly didn't read much about that. It has some cute little love stories, but there's this bigger story of the three girls' friendship. So they all kind of know each other because they're all like fashion models, and they all need a place to stay because they're kind of broke, and they all rent an apartment together. And this movie, in my opinion, kind of is the plot base for a lot of movies made today about girls who are just trying to make it in the world together. But this one just has, like I said, great musical score, fantastic billing for actors, and just fun, cute movie, and adorable little love stories to boot.
Look at the names on there: Monroe, Grable, and Bacall.
You said Marilyn Monroe. I was already fucking sold. You gotta tell me anything else.
It's and Marilyn Monroe wears glasses and isn't a nerd in this movie. She's not the sex bot.
Dude, I don't care what she's wearing. She wore the potato sack for a fucking reason. I'm like, yeah, she's still hot.
Going through and trying to find some images, like the posters and stuff. It's like I saw some of the pictures of her, like with a towel around her head, like she just got out of the shower and went like those glasses, those cat rimmed glasses. I was like, good God, I didn't think Marilyn Monroe could get any sexier. She is so hot right now. And granted, she was still all makeup up and everything.
She plays the nerdy one. Hi, Rachel in the chat. It's just one of my faves, and I loved watching all the Marilyn movies, but this one, and I love Betty Grable, and Lauren Bacall is great. Lauren Bacall plays the one who's kind of like the ringleader of it all. But like I said, if you like chick flicks, this is a great one.
Yeah, again, look at those names. You're not going to go wrong with those names.
No.
If you'd have put any one of those girls, any one of those names on the marquee, it would sell. You get all three of them. I mean, that's almost like an Avengers cast. It's like that's what that would have been.
That's like Charlie's Angels without it being Charlie's Angels. Holy shit!
Yeah, we'll catch you later. Night Watch. Thanks for coming in, brother. Definitely go check out Night Watch, you guys. Link to his channels in the description below. But yeah, it's like that's an all-star cast right there for the early 50s, and that's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And those are three of the biggest female actresses in Hollywood for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Those names are huge. But Jeremy, anything you want to say real quick before we move on?
I think Marilyn said it all for me. So, you know,
She
I
actually
think I
was.
may have to check that out since I haven't.
She actually was the artichoke queen of Castroville, California, before she became Marilyn Monroe. I grew up about 45. No, seriously, I grew up about 45 minutes from Castroville. And
what was her name before it was Marilyn Monroe? Norma Jean or something?
Norma Jean something. I forget what.
Yeah,
but
I think she would have been just as good as Norma.
But there are still like buildings in Castroville, California that have like murals painted to her.
Oh, nice.
Like
so
like
cool.
the fact that she was the artichoke queen of Castroville one year is like still something they lean on. But it's yeah, but it's Marilyn Monroe. Anytime you can attach yourself to Marilyn Monroe, you do. You know what I mean?
Right. Shit.
So now we're gonna go to Jeremy. Jeremy, what's the next movie you want to talk about, my man?
Oh, I feel like I can almost follow it with this movie. Can almost follow that. So let me know in the chat. Did you guess my movie? Because let's push this thing up the algorithm a little bit. Anyway, if no one guessed, yeah, I went with Brando. My next movie was The Godfather from 1972.
Nice. It's funny you
Yeah.
say that because in the chat somebody was talking about a Godfather movie that was made in 1931.
I don't doubt that. Off the top of my head, I could
Oh,
not tell
I'm
you.
wrong. They were talking about Scarface. My mistake. Scarface.
Oh, because I'm like, well, unless it's Scarface, because I'm like, that kind of works. God damn it!
Now, are
Any
you
of my
saying it's
movies.
the first one or the trilogy all
Yes.
together?
No. No, the first one, because the first one was pre-'80s. I don't remember when the second one. It might have still been in the 70s, but the third one was in like
Oh, but you can
1990
Yeah,
pull
or
it
some
all
shit.
together.
Yeah,
if
the
you
third
want
one
to.
came out like late 80s. I'm pretty sure the third one came out like way after the other two.
I thought it was 1990. It was close. Like, I know it was a lot fucking longer. It was.
Yeah, it was a while.
supposed
It was
to be
a
old
long
Michael, like-
time.
It was supposed to be old Michael Corleone, so I get it. So you didn't have to look too much. I mean, I know he's still young. Whatever.
Yeah, 1990 is when Godfather 3 came out.
Okay. I still know my shit. Don't doubt me. I don't remember when the second one came out, though. I want to say it's like
74. The second one came out in
77.
74.
Damn it. 74. Okay. I knew it wasn't long, but it was 70s.
And
Yeah.
72 for this film, for The Godfather.
72. I mean, holy shit. I just listened to the fucking theme like what, an hour or two ago, or whatever it was. That we were talking about like musical composers and whatnot, and it's just like I just love that little opening and just that roll. It's I don't know how to describe it. Like that's a weird thing to try and describe how that fucking music makes me feel. And you know, it just opens up on this dude talking about his daughter getting fucked up. They had to sew her jaw shut, and he's coming to the Don to basically kind of get revenge. And he kind of takes it as an insult. He's like, "Dude, you come in here. I mean, I'm sorry. You come in here on the day of my daughter's to be wed, and you ask me to do murder for money. You know what I mean?" And I think, okay, tidbit about that shit, when he's sitting in the chair and he's just sitting there petting the cat and shit, that cat just wandered onto the fucking set. And it just jumped in Brando's lap, and he just fucking went with it. That cat wasn't even supposed to be there. And it worked. That was, I think, where they started that whole, you know, cliche of like the bad guy having like a little cat sitting next to him and shit. And I'm like, it works. I don't know why it does, but it works. Thank you, Brando. Thank you for that. But I mean, this is one of those movies, like it's kind of like a weird ritual thing. I always watch this movie. And also the reason why I watch this movie, again, I don't know if I want to sit here and explain this whole movie, because I mean, I could. But another cool thing is I actually became a Godfather like 2 years ago. And it was funny because I was telling the mother, I'm like, I'm going to coerce this kid out of you. I swear to God. I kid you not. I watched this movie. The next day she fucking gave birth. And I'm like, nah, got it. I did it. So it seemed right that of course I have, you know, I couldn't find it. I have wearing a Gaelic Storm shirt. I couldn't find my Godfather shirt. But I had that, and it's the cutest thing ever. It was a little onesie that said the Godson instead of the hands with the marionette. It's the hands, but it's a mobile. I'm like, oh, how cool is that? It just says the Godson. I'm like, that's fucking cool. So it's got a little bit more of a special place to me now. But I mean, damn, man, you talk about mob movies and shit. Whew. that's a movie you can't refuse.
Yeah, I don't know a single person that wouldn't be a mobster if they didn't have a chance. It's like, I think we all watch mob movies and we're like, God, just I'd love to live that life for a day. Maybe not do all the violence. But yeah, just for one day, live that life.
You about to quote De Niro for all my life, as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. Fucking Goodfellas or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, actually, that was what's his name? It wasn't De Niro. It was Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta's character.
Oh, Ray Liotta. My bad.
Character. But
funny how.
Yeah, the great thing about this movie, it's like when this movie came out in '72, it's like old school gangsters from the the 30s through the 30s, 40s, and 50s watched this movie and they were like, this is what being a gangster was like. Because it's like mob movies, they tend to accentuate some of the different details that are kind of like the cooler details, but these guys were like, hey, this right here. It's like, yeah, the gunfights and stuff happened, but he's like, this right here. It was how organized it was, organized around this idea of respect and dignity and integrity, even though it involved killing people and doing some not so great things and bribery and all this other bad shit. There was this.
You can get the families to all still sit down at the end of the day. If you want to have a fucking meeting, you can.
Yeah, there was this organization and dignity and respect about it all that made all this amazing. Mm-hmm. That even though it was not always a good thing to be involved in, that made this whole thing work. And they said that's why so many people in the neighborhood, like even if they didn't agree with it, they wouldn't rat any of these guys out because they were doing what they could to help the neighborhood help itself and to do all these things. And they all said part of the problem was some of the guys like the Corleones, as they died off or whatever, these other guys took over because a lot of these guys back in the time where this movie's set, they didn't want to mess with any drugs, they didn't want to do any shit like that,
right?
Because they knew that it was going to hurt the neighborhood. And then but these younger guys came up and they were like, oh, but there's a lot of money to be made in drugs, so I'm gonna go ahead and start selling crack. And then next thing you know, the whole thing falls apart. And that's why you don't see the mob with the kind of influence, even though it still exists. You don't see these kind of groups with the kind of influence that they had back in the from the 30s up through the 60s, because that whole way of doing things changed. Mm-hmm. They all got greedy.
Otherwise you wake up with a fucking a horse head in your bed.
Yeah, talk about shit. Yeah, talk about shocking moment.
So I haven't seen these movies. I know that's crazy. In your opinion, is it worth watching all of them or just the first one?
Yes.
Well,
okay.
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 Maybe the first two.
Here's one of the things. I mean, I get why some people don't like this movie. Jennifer doesn't like this movie. My girlfriend doesn't like this movie. But I get it. It's a different. It's like you see Goodfellas. Goodfellas is a little bit more of an actiony thing. Casino, while a very, very good story, is still a little bit actiony. This is a very cerebral look at the life of being in the mob. There is some gunfights.
It's like a slow, but it's a burn.
It's very cerebral. It's a lot of it happens right here. It is a character study. It is not just, and yes, I mean, when Sonny gets killed in the drive-by and stuff like that. Shit. Yeah, there's stuff like that.
It'll shock you still.
But there is, and to top it all off, I mean, it's like, again, it's a character study. Pacino's character in this, he was born into this family, but he doesn't start the movie wanting to run the family business. He's just a guy who came back from World War I. He's not really in it the way his brothers are in it. He just thinks he's going to come back to this. He's just going to like marry and have kids and go work in a factory or whatever. He has no intention of taking over the business for his father, but ends up kind of finding himself in this position. So he's trying to feel his way through all of this stuff that is, because this world to him is completely alien. He had, like I said, he had no intention of going into this part of the business. He was just going to go live his life. So he was not cut out for it in the beginning. So it shows his growth from this, World War I veteran who came home from the war. He just wants to get married and move on with his life, to ends up becoming the head of one of the big families in New York. And that's a pretty big jump. So, I mean, it's a very interesting character study into what he goes through. And of course he evolves into that over the course of this film and the next one.
Those guys jumping his fucking dad in the alleyway was kind of a big, and then they were going to kill him in the hospital too. It's like,
yeah,
And then we beat the shit out of the sister's husband or some shit. Whew.
Yeah, but I get it. It's a very cerebral movie, and I understand why some people don't really get into it because, like I said, it's not. it's not actiony for some people enough for some people, and I get it. But I mean, if you really want to sit back and it's a mental exercise to watch this film, and sometimes those are the funnest movies for me. I like those movies, so maybe that's why I've always stuck this movie.
I can sit there and just watch it. I don't know what it is. I love it.
I say watch the first and the second one. The third one, meh. Mm-hmm. I mean, the third one was kind of a nice finale for Michael Corleone. It was kind of a nice way to end his story. I didn't really like the way that things ended for the Corleone family. You see, part of the problem with the third movie is The Godfather and The Godfather 2 were based on Mario Puzo's writing, his books. The third movie was made for film. It was written as a screenplay. It's not based on any of Mario Puzo's works. It was just kind of made as its own entity. And so, like I said, it's an interesting finale for Michael Corleone's character, but not really a great mob movie. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But I mean, and there are some strong scenes in it. There's like, you know, when his daughter gets shot out.
Take the gun. Leave the cannoli.
Yeah. Or leave the gun.
Take the cannoli. Leave the gun.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli. But there is some funny parts to it, like that. Scene. Yeah, but and the shootout, the hits, and all that stuff are exciting. But it is very cerebral. It's a very thoughtful movie if you approach it from that angle. And then again, and you see his character. I mean, what Michael goes through. He ends up doing this thing for his dad because he thinks he's trying to help. He has to go to Italy to hide out. He has all the crazy shit happen to him in Italy, and then he comes back and ends up falling into the family business. And just go watch it. Yeah, the first two at least.
He had a very explosive honeymoon. I'll just say that.
Yeah, there's some shit that happens. But yeah, it's a good movie.
Fucked up.
Yes, it's a very, very good movie, and you guys should all go check it out. And if you haven't, you're missing out. Again, it's a mental exercise. It's very cerebral. Look at it from that perspective.
Cool.
But I think you guys will.
I will look for it on the streaming services.
But let's see, what is the next movie I want to talk about? Let me find my list of movies right here. I'm going to go. We talked about Bogart earlier, so I'm going to go to some Humphrey Bogart right here. I'm going to talk about the Kane Mutiny. Now. This is probably not one of his biggest movies, but if you're into the military stuff like I am, it's interesting to watch. Now, Humphrey Bogart is Captain Queeg. He takes over this, I think it's a battleship during the World War II era of naval warfare, and he is not exactly right upstairs. It's pretty evident from the very beginning that he's a bit of a hard man to deal with. He is not really open to the suggestions or the thoughts of his other officers, played by Van Johnson, Fred McMurray, and Jose Ferrer. But it is kind of this battle of wills between Bogart's character Captain Queeg and the rest of his officers. It's kind of this interesting thing about how you can break down over how even the super intelligent, super smart, well-respected people can kind of have mental lapses and slip over time. And that's kind of what happens to Bogart over the course of this. Now, part of the movie is all about the incidents that happen at sea when they're doing some sea trials and stuff like that. And the second half of the movie is all about the court-martial itself. They actually did a TV movie in the late 80s called The Kane Mutiny Court-Martial. They had like Jeff Daniels and a couple other people in it. It was kind of a different take on this story. But the reason I like this one better is, for one, the dialogue is just so damn good. I mean, all these guys that you can see on the screen right now on the poster were just fantastic. Van Johnson was actually a huge actor in the 40s and 50s. So
I've never heard of this.
There's several movies of Van Johnson's I really like. I think you can actually find this on one of the streaming services. I'm not 100% sure.
Isn't Fred McMurray from that TV show My Three Sons?
Yes. Fred McMurray was actually he was big. Around the time it just came out, he was actually really big. But and Van Johnson was in a lot of stuff too. He was actually in a movie called Them.
Looks familiar.
He was actually in a movie called Them. It's about giant ants from the 1950s.
That sounds cool.
That
was that movie I was telling you about.
Yeah, I almost picked that movie, but I was like, I kind of want to do a review of that at some point coming up soon. So we're gonna have to get on that.
Oh, let me do that.
But I mean But you can see Humphrey Bogart's kind of how even he knows that he's slipping a little bit. The way he gets nervous, the way he has those little Japanese stress balls or the Asian you roll around in your hand like this. He has like those that he keeps in his pocket, and you can kind of tell when he feels like he's starting to slip a little bit. He'll reach in his pocket and he'll grab those, and he'll kind of like roll them around his hand. That's like his little. It's like the fidget spinner of the early 1950s. It was something like that, and that's what he does. And you can kind of just, again, it's about him slipping, his officers being torn between wanting to do the right thing and remove him from command, being torn between that and also wanting to just respect his position, because they know that he's this famous captain who comes in to take over the ship to get it back up to snuff because they need to go out to war and do stuff and blah blah blah. But they understand that this guy's not quite right, and they don't know if he's the guy who should be leading them into war. So it's pretty interesting, because these three characters are kind of torn between, do we just follow this guy because it's our duty, or do we actually stand up and say, hey dude, you may not be the guy? Especially in a time in the military where you were just told to do whatever your commanding officer told you to do. It wasn't something that was, unless it was something blatantly obvious, it wasn't something that you wanted to do, was to question their authority. It could ruin your career, even if you were right. So it put them in a very bad position, but it's really all about the story. So the first half happens out at sea and all this stuff happens. And the second half happens in the courtroom. Kind of, what's the one? A Few Good Men, kind of A Few Good Men style. A little bit of it turns into a courtroom drama towards the end. But yeah, very, very good acting, killer dialogue. Humphrey Bogart, come on, the guy was a beast. He's a legend. And again, Van Johnson, who was huge, who I absolutely love.
I'm surprised we don't have like a little. I don't know if there's some editors out there that want to make us like a dope little movie-esque like kind of intro for the show. Dude, when you know where I'm going already, probably. I'm like, we just need a fucking thing of him screaming, "You can't handle the truth." That needs to be the. And
you
then,
can't handle the harsh truth.
Right, I'm like, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
That'd be kind of dope.
Drop,
maybe I need to talk to Knight about that, because he's got a pretty kick-ass opening for his shows.
Yeah, I'm like, just little snippets of some like movie scenes, and I'm like, we gotta have that one in there. That little fucking that's the big,
Absolutely.
And you told me what the title of the show is gonna be. I'm like, I just see Nicholson screaming in my head.
I'll have to get on top of that. That's actually a pretty kick-ass idea. But
I like it.
I'm pretty sure you can find this on one of the streaming services somewhere. I don't know exactly where. This is actually a movie that I really want to own on physical media. But and again, it's like I think it's either Van Johnson or Jose Ferrer's character is also newly married. I think it may be Van Johnson's character. So he is also. He's torn because he's like, I just got married. I have my career. If I lose my career because I try to remove him from command, then I'm wrong. Not only am I kind of screwing myself, but I'm screwing my wife. Is she going to want to stay with me? That kind of thing. So do I want to hurt her life as well as mine if I'm wrong? So yeah, there's a lot that these guys have to consider before they finally make the move to remove Captain Queeg from command, and then of course you have the courtroom drama that plays out after that. So yeah, definitely a movie you guys should check out. Let me see if I can get this donation that Really Mysterious dropped to play. I certainly hope so. That'd be kind of awesome. I have no idea.
It looks like you can rent this movie. But it's not on a streaming service right now.
Probably something you could find on Amazon for like $3, $3 or $4. I would say go ahead and spend $3 or $4 to watch it once. It's
about $3.
Like I said, the dialogue is killer, and you've got some really great actors that deliver the dialogue. These guys know what they're doing. I cannot understand why this thing isn't playing, for Christ's sake. So I'll just go ahead and read it. Really Mysterious tips $1 and says Grand Hotel, good one. Godfather, yeah. Holiday Inn, never heard of. Towering Inferno is one that I actually started to watch. It
movie with Bing Crosby, fantastic.
Okay, Towering Inferno is actually one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. It was one of the first movies to top out at like 3 hours. It is a long, long movie. Obviously, O.J. Simpson, one of his first forays into acting, and then just so many great people in there. French Connection, can't go wrong with that. An exciting movie. Bad News Bears, absolutely. You're talking to a baseball guy here. Breakfast at Tiffany's, absolutely. The Party with Peter Sellers. Anything Peter Sellers is good. Go watch a lot of Peter Sellers stuff. That guy was good.
Yes.
Apocalypse Now. What's that?
Ooh. Oh, I'm sorry. Isn't Bullet also from like fucking the 60s? The Steve McQueen?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe early 70s. Late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around
there.
But he also says Apocalypse Now, another great war movie. It's a very, very deep war movie, kind of like The Godfather a little bit. Very, very. Wow. It's a mental exercise, very cerebral about the madness that can come on, that can that you can turn to in the middle of war. Deliverance, obviously, another great movie. The Warriors is a really good one that, for some reason, it did not for the longest time get a lot of love. But in the last, 5 or 10 years, I've seen a lot more, real cinephiles put that movie out there and say, hey, this movie's really good. The Wanderer is another good one. Bullet. He's got Bullet in there. Sleeper.
He was ahead of me.
Sleeper with Woody Allen. God, I'm iffy on Woody Allen. It's it seems like every movie he's ever done has been about weird relationships with a 16-year-old girl, and I'm like,
like his daughter.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, Woody. It's I understand putting a little bit of yourself into the movie is great, but I mean, come on. And then he says the end with Burt Reynolds. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
I don't think you have either. Shit.
I'll have to look into that one.
Okay. It's Burt Reynolds, man, so.
Van Edwards says Bullet was 68, he thinks. That sounds about right. I'm thinking late 60s, right around 1970.
That's what I was thinking, late 60s. That probably sounds right. It might be, because now I think about the Charger. Don't ask me why I know this. It was a full grill, not a split grill, so that'd be 69. So it had to be 68.
Yeah.
Because the Mustang was a little bit before that, too. Because I know shit. I know pointless stuff like that.
I just realized I have to
go. Or because I had to do a whole... Or because I had to do a whole fucking report on the Dodge Charger. That's why I know that.
Yeah, Brody back in the chat. He says he loved the original Ocean's 11. So did I. That's a really good movie.
Oh,
I actually liked the ending.
Right, you said
movie.
Sinatra. That's what I thought.
I tell everybody who hasn't seen it, you have to watch the ending, because the ending in the original is way better. It's
the ending of the original is so good.
It's
so good.
And it's just I wish they would have done that in the remakes, but yeah.
Well, the remake was probably really concerned.
I'm not going to give it away though for people who haven't seen it, because it's one of those jaw dropping
Yeah, the remake was probably really concerned with potentially setting up a sequel, because you put together the all-star cast of Clooney and all his co-stars. So they were probably really into this idea of maybe making a second movie. But yeah, back in the was it the early 60s that one came out?
Early 60s.
Yeah, back in the early 60s, they were just like, fuck it, we're just making a movie.
And I love that Frank Sinatra was in it, because I love all movies with him.
The Rat Pack, dude. Most of those guys were in there, weren't they? Fucking.
It was the Rat Pack. It was all
Martin. Yeah, D. Martin, Sammy Davis.
Yeah.
Peter Lawford. I'm trying to remember all their names. Yeah.
1960.
60. Ooh, wow.
I have to get
hell yeah.
Frank Sinatra, D. Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Cesar Romano, Henry Silva. Lots of people.
No, so I did get them all right. Holy crap.
Yeah, but the ending. Oh, love it. Oh, there's a thing on the back of the IMDb. A squirrel moment here. I'm seeing on opening night Wrath of Man, the Jason Statham movie, the new Guy Ritchie movie, Friday.
Yes, that's coming out. Yeah. The newer reviews are going to be really tough to get onto right now, because I'm right in the middle of baseball and doing all that stuff. But I'm just saying I'm going to see it. I'm trying to work that in somewhere.
Well, if you do, I want to be part of that shit, because I'm excited to see it.
And let's see, who is next? I think I just did mine.
Cora?
So, Miss Cora, I believe the next one is on you. What's the next movie you want to talk about?
My fifth of six, Paper Moon from 1973. Paper Moon is actually set in 1936. It's filmed in black and white, and it stars real life father and son Ryan and Tatum O'Neal. And they classified as an American road comedy drama film, which is a genre I've never heard of, but I thought was kind of interesting. And it's a guy who never knew he had a daughter, and the mother dies, and somehow he gets notified, and he's at the mother's funeral, and he doesn't really say, "Yeah, I'm your dad," and he's not 100% sure, but he agrees to take her to her aunt's house in Missouri, and it's all about their journey of how they bond. He's kind of a con man and gets in trouble, and she saves his ass over and over again. And it's kind of like a father and son version of Bonnie and Clyde a little bit. And it's kind of heart-wrenching and a little dark, but it's really compelling and just really, I love watching it. And it really highlights what life was like during the rough times during the Great Depression.
You guys
A
keep
little
talking. I'll
bit
be
in
right back.
wartime, like, you know, devastated economic areas of America. And it's extraordinary acting, and the effects of the black and white filming is really awesome. Kind of like we were talking about before with Wizard of Oz, the contrast of the color and the black and white. The film earned $13 million in 1973 just in theater rentals, for which is equivalent to dollars in 2019. It was directed by Peter Bogdanovich. It's just one of those period pieces that, because I think you might agree with me, Jeremy, a lot of period pieces are made in the 70s and 80s of prior decades and done quite poorly. And just like, come on, it's really shitty how you did that. But this one was very well done. And there's a really hard scene to watch when somebody catches up with him who he's done wrong, and he gets beat up and almost killed, and she, you know, nurses him back to health. And the little girl is a tough little broad, man. She smokes. She acts like a grown woman sometimes, and she's as much a con man as her dad. And I'll give it away. The ending, he gets her to the aunt's house after they've been robbed by people he did wrong. So it's kind of karma-like. And he drops her off at the aunt's house, and she doesn't want to stay with her aunt and be the perfect little girl. She wants to stay with her dad. And at that point, he's kind of bonded with her and accepted her as his daughter. And so she runs back to the car, and they ride off in the sunset to go be con father and daughter. And you don't know what their next adventure is, but you know they're together. And it's just, it kind of has like a, I don't know, like, can't put my finger on it, but it's just a touch of something. But it's really good. It's not weird or creepy. There's no stupid love story in it. A lot of action and car chasing. Really great costuming. And I mean, Tatum O'Neal, for her age, fuck, she was just acting like, I mean, a grown woman in a little girl's body, in character and in how she portrayed it. So very, very cool movie.
Yeah, and say it wouldn't be a weird love story because, you know, Woody Allen didn't make this fucking movie. There's Frank. He's back.
Yeah.
When did this turn into a take shots at Woody Allen kind of stream?
Look, man, when you make it that fucking easy, I'm sorry, man. But
it is. So, yeah, it's a dark family bonding / actionish Midwest 1930s movie, but it's one of those that really just pulls you into a time and a place in a way that is believable and done quite well. So there you go.
Patrons, still trying to. For some reason, it logged me out of everything Patreon. I don't really know why. That's weird.
I don't know.
Just trying to get the list of names to put on the wheel to see who we're giving $25 movie tickets to tonight. And then I have to log back into everything for some reason.
Oh, that's okay. Do you want me to talk about my sixth one since I have 6? While you're doing that?
Actually, this was about P.T. Barnum, you said, right?
No.
I could have swore that's what I wrote this was about. This was about P.T. Barnum.
Well, I think there's a quote on the movie poster by him. There's a sucker born every minute. But it's not about him at all.
That's weird.
No, it's just a random father and daughter kind of thing. It's a very short time period. We're talking like a 2-week period in their lives. And he doesn't know his daughter is his daughter until he shows up at the funeral of this woman. And he doesn't acknowledge her, but he agrees to take her to her aunt's house. And he's a con man, and she gets wrapped up in it and ends up becoming really good at it. She even smokes cigarettes at her age and saves his ass a couple times. And it's done in black and white, which was very different, and it really kind of pulls you in. So anyways,
this almost sounds like the plot of that movie I watched recently with Tom Hanks, News of the World. It was a really good movie.
Oh, never heard of it. I'm gonna look that up right now.
Yeah, it came out. I don't know if it was this year or last year. Might have been this year. It's very similar. It's like
2020. They're saying on Google.
2020. Okay. Yeah, I mean, can't really ruin it because I kind of said it was the same thing. It's he comes across this girl and she was raised by like Indians, but they're like, no, she has family. She has
so
like
kind
an
of like
aunt.
a Western sort of as well.
It's what?
Is it kind of a Western as well?
Yeah, it's like set in the late 1800s, maybe during the Civil War. So that's kind of a weird 20-year gap there. But like, yeah, it's like what he does is Tom Hanks goes around and he reads people the news because
1870.
70. Okay, so it's after.
He's a former Confederate soldier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he reads people the news and he comes across this girl and he has to take her to her only family left. And like I said, she even starts helping him and shit. And
nice. Well, that is a really cool tie-in because I would love to see this. Thank you, Jeremy.
It's a good movie. You're talking about period pieces. I'm like, no, it's cool. I really believe Tom Hanks was out here in fucking 1870.
Cool. It's based on a book as well.
Yeah, it was a fun little movie. I liked it.
Nice. I just added it to my watch list. Thank you.
Nice. Okay.
Well, we may as well go ahead and talk about Cora's extra pick while we're here.
Cool.
Go for
I'm
it.
excited. So, I personally think we should do a whole show about Westerns. But I had to throw a Western.
Oh, dear God,
in.
yes.
So, one of my top 3 Westerns is Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid from 1969. This movie...
Nice.
Sorry. You know the ending and some of the great classic lines. It's set in 1899 Wyoming. 2 outlaws that makes for an amazing Western story. They're kind of outcasts from their little gang and they're on the run, and it's all sorts of actiony scenes and mini plots within it. Kind of like a westerny version of Thelma and Louise, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I like that. Cloris Leachman is even in it. The film won 4 Academy Awards: Best Cinematography, Best Music, Song, and Best Original Screenplay. And it was also nominated for Best Director, Best Picture, Best Sound as well. It grossed over $100 million. It was the top grossing film released in 1969. And I just love Westerns. I love Robert Redford and Paul Newman. And you can't go wrong with this movie on a random day when you just want to watch a Western. So love it, love it, love it. And hope you've seen it. If you haven't and you're interested in Westerns, I would say put it on your list.
I'm already almost done. I got like 3 out of 5 now. You me fucked up. I was like, oh, I got it. Again, when I grew up with my grandparents and both of them loved the fuck out of John Wayne, I'm like, okay, you're going down a rabbit hole that I definitely have been in.
Mm-hmm.
Got this.
Yeah. This was another one of those movies made in the 70s and 80s that was portraying a different time period and did it well without it looking hokey and stupid. So,
well, this was in the era where they still made Westerns very good, because the Western genre fell out really bad. Kind of going into through the 70s they were good, maybe into the early part of the 80s. But in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, just the entire Western genre, just like nobody went there. And even now, it's kind of sporadic that you have anybody even try to go that route. Because for some reason, people just stopped being interested in that time of history, especially American history in the American West. Now they have come out with a couple of good ones. The one that Denzel, the new not Hateful Eight, what's the one they did? Magnificent Seven. Yeah,
that almost made my list. The original Magnificent Seven.
Yeah,
the original one.
Yeah, the newer Magnificent Seven was good. Brody just says True Grit. I mean, yeah, the newer one wasn't bad. I never got around to seeing it.
The original's so amazing.
Yeah, but yeah,
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Westerns were so good for so long, but they just, for some reason, they just fell out of vogue and people just stopped making them.
Well, they still make them every now and then. Like, some are really big, like 310 to Yuma was pretty big, and there was one that came out last year. I forget what it fucking was now, but anyways, I would love if we can schedule a night where we just talk about westerns. That would be fantastic.
No, we could. That would
Yeah,
be the worst
since
thing
you
to do.
You just fucking said one of mine. I was like, oh yeah, 310 to you, man. Damn it.
I own that one. On digital. I love popping that one on randomly when I'm, wanting to watch a western. But yeah,
I don't mind the new one either. Like, fucking.
I've never seen the original. Maybe that's something I should do.
Oh, I thought you were talking the original. Oh, bullshit.
I'm talking about the new one with the Australia
Christian
guy.
Bale and
Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Not entertained. Yeah, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, I like the new one. The old one's not bad either.
It just was impressive to me that it was the top grossing film released that year. I mean, that tells you how great it is.
Like 2009?
No, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, my actual pick.
Others was talking about 310 to you. I was like,
I'm all over the place.
Okay.
But yeah, so anyways, that's my last one, my bonus one. And my yeah, I just really enjoyed this week's topic. It has so many to choose from, but you think initially, oh, it has to be before 80. I'm kind of limited, but then all of a sudden you start thinking about all the movies. It's just like, fuck, like Frank said at the beginning, we could go by a decade, I'm sure, week to week, but I really loved this. This is the
golden age of Hollywood, man. There's a lot of good fucking movies.
Yeah, some of the movies I left off my list, I was kind of scratching my own head at myself. I was like, do you really want to take that one off? I was like, it's this.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we do like a part 2 so we can each do 5 more movies sometime?
I think for some of these, there's going to be some part 2s happening, like comedies of the 80s.
Sure.
The 80s was a fucking epic decade for comedies. I couldn't possibly just pick 5 movies. There's probably 40 or 50.
I had a list of 20 that I knocked down to 6.
Yeah, there's probably 40 or 50 movies of each genre from each decade that we could gush about for hours. But we can't do that now because we have to move on. And I believe that Jeremy, you still got one more movie you want to talk about. Give it to us.
Yep. And since you are killing me down there, okay. And if you guys know me, you know damn well I was going to go here. Of course, my last pick is Star Wars from 1977.
I welcome it and love it because it was the start of a whole generation of.
Oh man. You don't even know what you fucking did, Lucas. Yeah. So you want to talk about period pieces that done well, that believable, like Galaxy Far, Far Away, a long time ago, whatever. Yeah. Because I'm going to call it Star Wars because that's exactly what it was called. It wasn't called A New Hope or anything like that. So as a one-off, I mean, hell, that's what they thought it was going to be. Like, hey, there's this, and you got Star Trek, like what, in the 60s? So I mean, what else do you really?
Yeah.
What else do you have that's actually successful? And I was gonna say successful because there are other little weird space epics and shit that's been out there.
Well, if you look at books, I mean, Isaac Asimov was huge back then for sci-fi literature, but not in movies.
Yeah, or even 2001: A Space Odyssey, probably the other one I could think of that's kind of like a spacey movie. Like Planet of the Apes. I didn't say Planet of the Apes. That was in the 60s. Fuck. Anyway. Yeah, so one of those things that was like, one of those successful ones that just really fucking took off, man. It's the classic story of, the scrappy little farm boy gets wrapped up in this whole rebellion against the evil empire. And it's like, yeah, you still have those little tropes where like, yeah, Darth Vader's evil. You just know he's evil because he is. You just look at him, you're like, yeah, that's a bad guy. But I mean, there is some more complexities to him, which it helps. You get the whole Jedi thing, Jedi versus the Sith. Luke Skywalker, of course, was just fucking his aunt and uncle, his only family he ever had, and he said, "Well, fuck it, I'm gonna go be a Jedi." I know I'm paraphrasing and it makes it sound dumb, but I'm just like, no, you said
no,
but
you're
whatever.
Getting to the point.
Yeah, he's like, well, whatever. I got nothing else to fucking do. I got nothing for me here on this desert fucking planet I grew up on. And, of course, he sees now you think it's, oh, look, it's the beautiful princess and she's captured. But shit, she took a gun right out of Luke Skywalker's hands and started shooting back at the fucking stormtroopers. She said, fuck this, man. Someone's going to have to save us. I mean, you can't go wrong with Carrie Fisher. rest her soul.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So
I think people tend to forget something that this movie did. I mean, other than becoming Star Wars. I mean, just kind of its own kind of. I mean, Star Wars is its own genre of movie almost. I mean, it's like there's science fiction and there's Star Wars, and some people, most people love it. Some people don't like it. I mean, I get it. There is some tropey things in it that can turn some people off. But I mean, you got to understand what it did for the science fiction genre at the time. In the 50s and early 60s, science fiction was huge. Because we were especially in the 60s, we were just really starting to get into like space travel, and Sputnik, and just these guys just doing
landing on the moon.
Yeah, landing on the moon, the Earth orbits, it's stuff like that. It's like
people got excited.
Yeah, that stuff got kind of supplanted by other things that were going on, and so when those things came around and people still weren't getting a lot of sci-fi movies, it's like it seemed like the perfect time for George Lucas to come up here and say, "Hey, I've got this really cool, deep story about this family of people who are have this special ability that are part of this larger thing called the Force. You have the spiritual element of the Force. You have this
religious, in a way,
spiritual religious element of the Force. You have kind of this timeless story about the kid from nowhere, planet of Tatooine, whatever, getting involved in this really huge thing going on involving the entire universe. I mean, it was kind of the perfect time for this thing to come up and just explode. And I don't know that George Lucas necessarily planned it like that. He probably thought to himself, we haven't had a good sci-fi story in a while. Maybe now it's time to go ahead and do this kind of thing. But
what I thought, learning later in the fact, is he knew he had a plot for episode 1, 2, and 3, but this was the one that got the movie green light. I was always curious why he couldn't sell the episode 1. Like, what was it about this one?
I don't think it was that he couldn't sell it. I think that sitting back and looking at it, he thought this was a better starting point.
Okay.
He started with the Skywalkers, like the Luke Skywalker first, and kind of went with. I don't know if they really planned on doing the next one, Empire, but I mean, it still works. Like, and then realized, okay, there's a whole. I can maybe get this whole story out that I want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard him talk about it a couple of times.
Changed the landscape for filmmaking.
Yeah, I've heard him talk a couple of times about why he decided to start with episode 4, but I can't remember exactly.
Well, because they named it episode 5, and it kind of awkwardly had to be like, all right, wait, that's 4.
Yeah, oops.
Like I said, it was just called Star Wars. That's why I said that. I'm like, it's not A New Hope. It's just Star Wars.
It's just Star Wars.
And then Irvin Kershner came in and was happy ass. You're right. And then he's like, hey, this is episode 5. We're not Return of the Jedi. Fucking Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I see you guys in there talking, saying things. Let's see. Let me say, Blues Brothers is my favorite movie of all time. It barely misses pre-80s due to being 1980. Yeah, close enough.
Whoever that was, I want you to know that was my first thought. I thought, can I do 1980? It's right on the cusp. I thought, no, I'll do 70s. Fuck.
I thought about it for like one movie, but I'm like, no, it's pre-80s. I want to stick with it.
Yeah, I know, but I'm like, that's right there.
Damn. Yeah, I hear you.
A lot of you guys,
part 2, how's that?
A lot of you guys have mentioned like Alien and Rocky. I'm like, I get it. There's only 15 movies we can talk about over the course of this stream. I get it. Trust me, I'm hearing
and we
you
all
guys.
collectively kind of just decided to go pick random ones that you love from before 80. So if we did maybe we should do one big pop culture movies, because the ones I picked, none of them were big pop culture picks. Exactly.
You know what? Some of the best movies are not pop culture movies. I agree. Some of the best movies come out of nowhere. They were made on for bus fare by a couple of 20-year-old kids that were just bored with college and decided to drop out and make a movie, i.e. Kevin Smith, who dropped out of film school. Clerks. And now we have it gave us Clerks, and now here we are with Kevin Smith. But there's not much more to say about Star Wars. You can shit on it for some of the plot holes and the whatever, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Force Awakens is just a reskin Star Wars. I get it, but who cares? You can't tell me the movie's not wildly entertaining.
Can I leave this with a quote from if you've seen Star Wars and if you love Star Wars and you haven't seen this movie yet called Fanboys? Speaking of Kevin Smith, Watch that fucking movie. It's the greatest fucking love letter to Star Wars that I've ever seen. It's hilarious.
I have that movie.
And it may just hit me a little. Yeah, I love. You know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah.
Kinky Kelly's or the studs in there. Sorry. Yeah, like I will leave you with the line that always stuck with me. The kid said at the end, he's like, "You got to keep the flaws, the crappy effects, the real puppets, because that's what makes it so great." You know.
Yeah.
One of the great things about that movie is as protective as George Lucas has been of this entire property for good reason. It's like when they took the script to him, he loved it, and he let them use actual props. Like from the now, he obviously doesn't let them shoot at Skywalker Ranch. They actually filmed it at a hotel somewhere in somewhere in Northern California or something like that. But he actually gave them actual props from not just Star Wars but Indiana Jones and stuff to use in the filming of this thing. And it's like, this guy doesn't just go let you use legit old school, like actual Star Wars props for your stupid movie. It's like he actually really, really liked the message of the film and what Star Wars has done for the fan community and the community that had been built around it. So when that guy actually says that's good stuff, because he shit on so many things that were actually good properties and good ways that fans have tried to pay respect to the franchise, he shit on a lot of them. I mean, he's been really super protective of this whole property. But when he says,
you got Georgie Boy's approval,
if he likes
you done something right.
Now,
I really wish that scene when he said he was talking to George Lucas on the phone. I'm like, oh, look at that! I've actually just been George Lucas. That would have been so fucking funny.
It would have been.
You a video call. It would have been so funny.
That would have been kind of awesome.
Like a hologram. You could have made a hologram of George Lucas. Damn it!
He just pops up to the middle of the table, standing there like in a cloak.
Right. You could have made him a little Jedi and put into his own joke. Damn it, George.
We're going to have to do a quick review of that one at some point because I think we're going to have to. That's just a great movie.
Yes.
But we'll go ahead and before we do the $25 giveaway and movie tickets, we're going to talk about my last one. And seriously, I mean, this is some of Jack Nicholson's best shit. Is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Look,
Hey! I got a story for this when you're done. Don't let me forget.
Well, the movie is based in the fall of '63. So it came out in the 70s, but it's based in the fall of '63. And basically, Jack Nicholson's character gets himself thrown in this kind of like nut house because he wants to get out of the labor farm that he's at, this prison that he's at, where he has to do hard work. So he acts like an asshole to get sent over here for psychiatric evaluation, and he figures, I'm going to do the rest of my time in this psych ward where I don't have to break rocks and do all that bullshit that they have prisoners do. And he
met Nurse Ratched.
He ends up in this insane battle of wills between him and Nurse Ratched, who is this passive-aggressive, hateful bitch who is just playing games with all these inmates. And you know, he does kind of go on this weird journey of self-discovery because he's obviously a hooligan. He's obviously a criminal. He's in jail for, among other things, statutory rape. So I mean, right there, you know he's not necessarily the best guy, but it's just he gets kind of in with these group of people who are in there for psychiatric help, and he realizes fairly quickly that Nurse Ratched is basically just playing games with these people, and so it becomes his personal mission to screw with this lady. And the ending of the movie was mind-blowing. It's like what the lengths that somebody like Nurse Ratched would go through to maintain this control over this group, because you don't really see any of her away from this nut house, so you don't really know what she got going on at home, but you got to figure it's something she's not exactly happy with because she feels like she has to come in here. And in so many
we've all worked with one of those.
Yeah, and in so many ways she's almost playing God with some of these people. I mean, she's trying to tell them what they think, tell them what they feel. There's obviously a bunch of medications and stuff that they're handing out to people. And now it's based in the 60s where there wasn't really a whole lot. There was a lot of very antiquated ways of dealing with people with mental issues back in the 60s. I mean,
they were still lobotomizing people.
Yeah. Yay. And that comes up in this movie. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it comes up in this movie. But, I mean, it's just the way that this kind of half-handed, just bullshit way of just throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks is a way of dealing with mental illness. It's on full display in this. And then just this, like I said, this battle of wills between Nicholson's character and Nurse Ratched is phenomenal. It's so subtle. There is nothing that's over the top about this movie. It's all very subtle. And that's one of the best things about it. It's like it's a bit of a slow burn, until you realize you're burned out, that this movie's just exhausted you. When the movie's finally over, you're like, what the fuck, dude? How does it end like this? What is going on? And you really do learn to care about a lot of the characters in here. And for one, it's an amazing cast. I mean, Danny DeVito's in it.
Malkovich.
Not Malkovich. Shit. The guy who played Doc Brown.
Oh,
Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. But
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd is in it. I mean, there's
There
are some really Scatman Carruthers is in it. For those of you who are old enough to remember him, I know he passed away back in the '90s, I think. But he was a guy who was.
Well, he was in that movie. He was in that movie with Nicholson, that little tidbit thing called The Shining.
Yes, he was in The Shining as well.
A little tidbit.
Yeah, small independent film called The Shining.
Little student film, yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing how seemingly effortlessly this movie gets under your skin and kind of gets you like wondering. And if you're one of those people that's like me who tries to see kind of myself in the protagonist's place so that I can kind of figure out where they're at in the movie, try to understand their motivation a little better. It's a really, really crazy movie, because if you kind of see yourself in Nicholson's spot, you're like, Jesus Christ, how is this guy so... Because he's not crazy per se, but he gets himself put there because he tries to avoid work, and then he finds out that this time that he's spending in the loony bin doesn't actually go towards his sentence. He gets kind of pissed off, and then he tries to take that out on Nurse Ratched, and that's when the whole thing escalates. I mean, the last part of like the third act, the last probably 20 minutes of the movie it's a little faster paced. But I mean, the whole movie itself, it's just this weird slow burn. It's almost like the ultimate staring contest between these two characters, and but you're so wrapped up in it because this passive aggressive bitchiness that you get from Nurse Ratched. It's like it's so crazy. You want to hate her. You really do hate her character almost 5 minutes into the movie.
Right.
It's like just this look on her face. It's like I talked about that bitch face earlier with Betty Davis.
Yeah, you want to talk about the OG?
Yeah, the entire movie is her like with this vindictive, shitty look on her face. And it was such great acting. I mean, I talk a lot about people who act with their eyes. Her eyes are so sharp in this movie. And you can tell just by looking in her eyes how vindictive and mean she really is. Despite the fact that she walks in there with a nice, clean nurse's outfit and the hat. She talks so nice in such a calm voice, but you know she's a hateful bitch. Yeah, and she makes it very clear with her actions. It's such an insane movie. Like I said, the best part of this movie.
That movie was filmed in the town my mom grew up in, and she had an office right across the street from it.
Really?
And she loved that movie, and she would sit outside for lunch and look at it and just imagine. Yeah.
But yeah, it is a really insane battle of will between these two characters, and it's one that you don't realize how it's gotten under your skin until the movie's over. But yeah, I actually sat and watched this. I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I watched it 2 nights ago, just sitting around the house, and I was like, good God, I forgot how good this movie really was. And I think the last time I saw it, I was probably in my mid-teens, so I hadn't seen it in a long time. But now that I see it with a more adult point of view, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie is deep. It's dense. There's a whole lot there. So I really suggest you guys just sit down and watch this movie.
I was like, my mom, who was a nurse, fucking uses that as a term, Nurse Ratched, for like just one of those nurses that's just god fucking awful. Like she's used that as an actual term before, and it's actually hilarious. As a Nurse Ratched type, as she says.
Yeah, and Nurse Ratched is a name that is commonly thrown out there now for like just people who are bitches. Like mean, vindictive people, you're like, oh, that's Nurse Ratched. I mean, it's become a part of the nomenclature of the country because of the acting job that she did in this movie. It was fantastic.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing. Any final thoughts on this before I go to the giveaway?
Nope. Good picks, gentlemen. I loved.
Look, I get it. You want to know a couple of movies I left off my list? And these were on my list at first, but as I was kind of going through some other... I wanted to touch on some other things that maybe had been forgotten, but were still very good movies. The Kane Mutiny was one of the ones I put on there late. But I left off Planet of the Apes and Rocky.
See? Okay. I was going to say... I had that realization. Why didn't I say Planet of the Apes? Damn dirty ape.
Damn dirty ape.
Damn
yous all to hell!
You blew it up!
I try not to laugh at that part when it comes on, but I'm like, I can't help it.
I know,
like,
but
now it's funny. Kevin Smith made it funny.
Fair.
Damn yous all to hell! But now we gotta go give away money.
Yeah.
Who is up for it? Looks like we got Casey is Raw, Gatekeeper Drew, Lady Cora, and my girlfriend. It's the harsh truth. So we're going to see who wins $25 in free movie tickets. I know a couple of people, they kind of fell off. They kind of come off and on, but whatever. That's who's getting hooked up right now. Don't forget, you guys have until this time next month to get on the Patreon if you want to try to win $25 in free movie tickets. Who's winning them today? Let's find out.
Drum roll.
Oh, great. Now I have to give Jennifer money.
Yay!
Oh, fuck.
That's all right, though.
Awesome.
I pay for so many of her movie tickets. You know what? It's all right. The money's staying in the house.
Exactly.
Well, this is a
you guys will actually go to the theater.
Yeah, this is a house of winners. See, I just won the Cards Against Humanity Championship for the second time in a row, by the way, over on the Derailed podcast. And now Jennifer has won the $25 in free movie tickets for this month. So good job, man. It's like he's buying the next round of movie tickets. Well, I am. Ipso facto through her. However you want to look at it. Right. Bottom line is me and my girlfriend are going to see a movie. And you guys could too, if you decide to join the Patreon for just $5 a month. Anyway, so it's some really fantastic movies. I'll check in the chat with what some of you guys are saying. Let's see. Let me go through here. Alien looks amazing to this day. It still holds up. Yes, it does. Keep in mind, contrary to...
Terrifying.
Keep in mind, contrary to what is claimed, Lucas never really had everything planned out from the word go. I don't know that things went the way he originally planned. I think he had an idea.
Yeah.
I don't
think it worked out for him.
Yeah, yes. I don't think he said, I'm going to do chapters 4, 5, and 6 first and come back 20 years later and do 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to sell to Disney for a gajillion dollars and they're going to make, 7, 8, 9, and then they're going to make The Mandalorian and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know that was a plan. I'm sure he probably had some ideas written on a pizza box or a cocktail napkin somewhere, or maybe just in the back of his head. But OG Star Wars was sci-fi, fantasy, samurai films, and Western rolled into one. It's brilliant. He does pull off a lot of different things, a lot of different areas of influence. I mean, because he has said very clearly that the Empire and then eventually the First Order was based on the Third Reich, and just kind of like that whole idea of
even the one color scheme.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the black and white and the little hints of red in there. It's like, yeah, that was the point.
Yeah. Micah Sandwich in the chat says he started with 4 because the technology wasn't fully there and it was the most standalone story since no one thought it would work out. That's entirely possible. Yeah, I would believe that.
And someone said samurai. It's like he did take a lot from Akira Kurosawa, like those old samurai films.
He did.
That like Seven Samurai, I think, was the name of the movie.
Well, I think even the style of lightsaber battles is based on some of that stuff. Is it not? Yeah.
Well, you see Vader's helmet looks like a samurai helmet. That was the whole point.
Yeah. Let's see, what else were we talking about? He says, TSS2 says Star Wars A New Hope will always be my 3rd favorite Star Wars film. Yeah. Top 5 for me. I mean, prequels, not really, I don't know, they're kind of last. But I mean, I always say Return of the Jedi is my favorite. I know Empire is amazing, and it would probably be my first, but Return of the Jedi was just always my favorite. I float back and forth between Empire and Jedi. Whatever day you catch me on, it's going to change, but I float back and forth between the 2. Let's see. JSP says influenced by possibly Lensman, Flash Gordon, and a plot point from the movie Where Eagles Dare, starring Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood. Possibly. I don't think I've seen Where Eagles Dare. I know I've heard of the movie, but I don't know if I've ever seen it. Van Edwards says, anyone remember Trick or Treat from the 1980s? Fastway did the soundtrack. Trick or Treat from the 80s. You know what?
I remember that.
It's triggering something, but I can't bring it up.
I know what the new one was. They were talking about there, but I'm like, I think there was one back fucking way back in the day. I feel like there was.
I'm not entirely sure. But let's see. Moving on, while Jeremy looks that up, Micah Sandwich said it was basically like Ed Wood. He made what he wanted. Yeah, it worked out great for Ed Wood.
Yeah.
But it was really
triggered.
Yeah, talking about Lucas though, I mean, it was hard because Lucas was not Lucas yet. He wasn't George Lucas back at the time, so it was probably not the easiest thing in the world for him to convince some of the people at Fox to let him do some of the shit he wanted to do with that series.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, he was just a kid who loved movie making and loved movies and was trying to express himself artistically. Not everybody turns into that, but he just was, the diamond in the rough.
Before that, he had American Graffiti. That was like the big thing he did before Star Wars.
Mhm.
He did the THX whatever it was movie too, but that was way more of an independent thing. That was way before he became George Lucas. But
I've got Trick or Treat here from 1986. That might be what he's talking about. Oh, Jesus Christ. Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne. I'm already sold.
Well, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, hey.
I'll try it. Why not?
A horror comedy featuring rock gods Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne. Bullied metalhead obtains a mysterious demo record of a recently deceased hard rock star with startling consequences. So this sounds like Tenacious D before it was Tenacious D. Hey, I love that.
I'll give it a go. I'll try it.
Now I didn't know about that.
JSP says, guys, look up Team Negative 1 and 4K77. I don't know what that is.
Are they movies?
I don't know. I'm guessing so. I'll have to check into those. Van says, when was The Shining? The Shining was, what, 76?
80. No, 80 or 81.
Was it the 80s, really? I thought it was late 70s.
Yeah. No. Project 4K77 is the Star Wars, something about Star Wars. I have no idea what that is. And now the first question says, is that legal? So I'm just going to get the hell out of that before the FBI knocks on my door. Or I have George. Well, no, it won't be George. It'll be the mouse. The mouse is going to show up.
Before you get swatted.
I don't want that.
It's going to be all these jackboot thugs
right.
with mouse hats.
Oh, I'm going to kick your ass now. What the fuck? All right. That's what the fuck I was going to look up. Oh, shit. What were we talking about? The Shining.
Yeah. What year The Shining came out? I thought it was late 70s. It could have been 1980.
No, 80. 80.
Okay. So I was wrong.
Right on the nose.
Let's see. JSP says evidently there's a new series called Ratchet. Yes, there is a series on.
Yes.
It's one of the streaming services. I forget what.
That sounds interesting.
It's Sarah Paulson.
It's about like a young nurse Ratchet.
Yeah, Sarah Paulson from the American Horror Story series is playing. It's a prequel series from what I've read. I haven't watched any of it. I'm interested to check it out to see if it's any good. But she does play Nurse Ratchet prior to his character coming in and wreaking all his havoc. So yeah, I've heard it's pretty good. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to watch it. I forget what it's on. It's not on cable. I think it's not FX. What's it on? I'll have to find it.
It's on something. Yeah.
Let's see. JSP also says I really don't think he had the prequels planned out that early on. Like I said, I mean, what stage of planning? Who knows? I mean, I'm sure he probably had ideas, but what stage of planning? Who knows? Lucas founded ILM to make Star Wars. That's right, and Lucasfilm, of course. That's absolutely right.
Skywalker Ranch.
JSP says Team Negative 1 is actively restoring the original trilogy pre-special edition. Giving it a 4K, says giving it a 4K remaster. I thought that one of the stipulations to Lucas selling everything to Disney was that they shelve all the original versions of Star Wars. That the only ones you can buy now are the special editions with all the stuff that he added into them in the 90s.
I don't know. Couldn't some of the stuff also be redealed and changed over time?
Well, I mean, he could.
Which is funny. Well, because the ones I have, the ones I had that I love is actually, I have a thing of the 3 original VHSs, but I also have.
Really?
Yeah, I have. It's a whole set, like in a box, like a gold-plated, like Vader. I have that, but like when I bought this even hurts to say, it was in a Kmart. That already just didn't age well. But yeah, this is like, because I know they did a touch up in like 2011 or some shit. This was before that. This was in high school still. I went and bought. They had all fucking 6 movies there, and I bought all of them together. And the cool thing about there's 1, 2, and 3. But then the cool thing, right, that was with 4, 5, and 6 was there were 2 discs. One was the one that was like updated, like kind of not overly done because it's kind of a nice middle ground. But then the second disc was like it's the OG, like the original, like theatrical versions of each movie from 77, 80, and 83.
Nice.
And I love that.
I like the original cut to myself. Yeah. I don't like the remastered, adding the special effects that they couldn't do back then. I like the. I'm cool if you touch up
like the laser blasts and explosions and lightsabers and shit like that, but all the unnecessary shit, no.
I was okay
But
with
everyone
him.
can have their opinions.
Yeah, I was okay with him touching him back up. I really wish he would have left the original versions out there because that's what I grew up watching, and I don't have a problem with them. But whatever. I mean,
I still scream at the Disney Plus. I'm like, nope, Han shot first. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Well, now that we've made our opinions on Star Wars very clear, that seems like a pretty good place to wrap things up.
Yes, may the 4th be with you all. Good night.
May the 4th be with you all. At least it was 2 days ago. Thanks to JSP. He's been really busy the last few minutes in the chat, letting us know what's going on with all that stuff with the remaster. Van Edwards, Micah Sandvich, thank you guys for coming around. Let's see who else is in here. Let's see, JSP. Van Edwards was in here. Miss Cora, obviously, is on the call with us. Jabroni Jabber. Brody was in here earlier. And then way earlier, as I go way back, Derailed popped in just to take a shot at me because I took a shot at him live on his show. But hey, that's all right. I love Drew. He's my guy. TSS, JSP, Sonic Boom was in here. What's up, Scott? Hope you got a chance to catch the rest of the show. Dr. Nick was in here for a little bit. What's going on? Penny the Pooh. And a bunch of other people. So Night Watch also came in here for a little while. Again, go check out Night Watch's channel. The link to his channel is in the description below. He's a really cool guy with a really great crew over there on his channel. They talk a lot of horror movies. Those are really great people to watch. He's getting really close to 1,000 subscribers. Let's try to get him over that. Let's try to keep supporting him because I know a lot of his viewers have come over here and supported us. So let's make sure that we're starting to build this little bit of a film fan community. It's kind of coalescing. And I think it's a really cool thing. I think he's got a really great channel. He's connected to a lot of other really great YouTubers that I hope you guys will give a chance. So go check them out as well as everybody else is in the description because I put their links in there because I think they're great people. They're pretty good YouTubers that are entertaining. Except for Drew. Screw Drew. Going live on the night that I go live. He knew better. Damn it, Drew. But listen.
You knew what you were doing.
You knew what you were doing.
Well, this is the... say he was going to be going live randomly all week, so
yeah, whatever. Damn you all to hell! You blew it up. But I'll give Drew some shit later on. I'll give Drew some shit later
You're
on.
just on your own here, so.
But thank you very much, and thanks again to my great co-host, to Jeremy Warner, for being so awesome. Thank you so much to Lady Cora for being so wonderful and coming on here every week. I'm so glad that she just kind of stumbled into being a co-host here because she's been wonderful to have around. And I'm looking forward to some of the stuff that me and her are going to be doing with Downton Abbey later on in the summer.
Yes.
As we get close to the release this December of Downton Abbey 2. Downton Abbey is going to be the subtitle, I hope.
Ooh, I just thought of an idea for a show night. I think we should sync up with Night Watch. And I'm not a big horror movie fan, but I've seen enough. I think we should do our top 5 horror movies and invite him to join us.
We could. That's doable. I'm kind of not planning too much crazy shit right now because between YouTube, work, and coaching baseball, my time is really strained. So as we get closer to probably the 1st of
Loki
July,
and stuff.
As we get closer probably to the 1st of July, and some of the baseball stuff falls off my schedule, then I'll probably be able to open up to do some more collaborating because there's a couple of the other YouTubers that are kind of in this community that is kind of coming together that I've talked with about maybe doing some stuff with. But I don't want to make too many plans because my time is really strained right now, and I don't want to commit to anything that's going to be too hard to do.
I hear you.
And I don't want. It was just an idea. And I don't want to do videos at 11 o'clock at night.
I know Jeremy loves horror, and we made him do sports movies, and he deserves a night where.
Horror is going to be the videos where Jeremy shines. That's for sure. And also, there's going to be probably some anime stuff coming up. Yeah, there's also going to be some anime stuff coming up from Jeremy on this channel as well. There's going to be some time, probably again later in the summer.
We should get Ray Rollins in for that.
We might. No, anime, not cartoons. Anime, very different. Very different. I don't know.
I'm the asshole.
I don't know if Ray is into anime, but that might be one of those shows where I just do an intro and then I just produce and let Jeremy and whoever he wants to bring on talk about anime just go to work because it's a niche I want to tap.
I could think of like 2 or 3 people I could actually bring, but
hey, that's something that might come later on the summer too. But thank you all for coming in.
I did watch Samurai Jack. Does that count?
Samurai Jack?
Maybe. Kind of. That's a tough one. I had to think about that.
Okay.
Well, Jeremy will figure that stuff out. Jeremy will figure that stuff out because he's going to quarterback all the anime stuff. But anyway, thank you guys all for coming around. Rachel just popped in the chat. We love you, Rachel. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us. Thank you to my wonderful co-host, to all of you watching, and we will see you guys later on.